Live from 5 News, this is a weather impact alert.
Well, good evening and actually almost good morning, everybody. Meteorologist Noah Simmons tracking some severe thunderstorm potential as it's working its way through northwest Arkansas, but also the River Valley. We have one severe thunderstorm warning right now, and that is into portions of southern Outage County, Sequoyah County, and then entering into parts of Crawford and Sebastian County. So that's that line that we're going to be watching. Of course, if you're in northwest Arkansas right now, you're seeing some heavy rain. You're hearing it. You're hearing the thunder and lightning right now, but we're certainly watching this severe thunderstorm warning. So let's kind of zoom in a little bit closer and talk about what we're seeing with this. This is technically warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts as well as a tornado possible attack. So it's not a tornado warning, but just enough rotation that the National Weather Service is watching it closely that it could maybe quickly start to circulate, start to spin up at least a little bit. So that's what we're kind of watching out there as we're working between about Sallisaw and Stillwell. If we kind of zoom in to the reflectivity right now, again, this is the strongest line of the storm right now from about Sallisaw to Flute Springs to Stillwell. Heads up in Muldrow, you're probably hearing some thunder right now. This severe thunderstorm warning goes until I believe 1:30 in the morning. If I double check here real quick, just to make sure that I have this right. Yes, this is going till 1:30 in the morning. This is moving east at 50 miles an hour. And this is warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So really the strong winds are going to be the main potential with this. And there's probably some embedded circulation. So let's look at velocity right now before we get a little storm track on that. And we'll go to storm relative velocity, see what our winds are doing with this storm. And there's definitely a few little circulations that I'll try to point out to you guys here, especially one right by Sallisaw, just actually east of Sallisaw. So this is taken from the Fort Smith radar, which is actually behind me where this computer monitor is. The winds or the colors in green are the winds going toward the radar. The reds are the winds going away from the radar. So you have the reds going away, then you have the greens going toward, and it kind of makes that little bit of that counterclockwise circulation. So that's this little area of circulation that we're watching just east of Sallisaw. So if you're kind of along Oklahoma 64 there, I'd definitely be watching out for this. This is just a severe thunderstorm warning right now. It's not tornado warned at the moment, but we're still watching some of these little embedded areas of circulation like this one just east of Sallisaw, moving east about 50 miles an hour. I kind of want to go along the line, and Trevor, we do have a tornado warning. So I believe, give me 1 second to make sure this is, okay, so we are under a tornado warning. Trevor, you can get me on air programming ASAP. That would be fantastic. Anyways, so if we're still streaming live right now on 5 News Plus and on YouTube, talking about this tornado warning that has just gotten issued. Again, we were just talking about this here within the last few seconds. This is this area of circulation just east of Sallisaw right now. This is going to be moving across Oklahoma 64, and that's that area of circulation that we're currently looking at. If I look at the tornado warning real quick, this goes till 1:45 in the morning. So this includes Sallisaw proper, Bellefonte, Remy, Muldrow. Again, here's Arkansas 648. There's I believe 101 here. And we're going to be talking about the relative potential for seeing that circulation. Again, that's why that tornado warning was issued just east of Sallisaw. So if you're in Sallisaw watching right now, okay, good evening, or I guess good morning, everybody. Meteorologist Noah Simmons talking about severe thunderstorms, but also a tornado warning. This is right now in Sequoyah County. We got Sallisaw right here. The area of circulation is just east of Sallisaw right now. So you got the greens going toward the radar, but you also have the reds going away from the radar. So you have this little counterclockwise rotation here. We'll zoom in a little bit closer and kind of get some neighborhood towns in here. And again, we're going to be talking about this tornado warning until about 1:45 a.m. That's when that warning would expire. If you're by Seven Oaks, if you're in Hanson, you got to be in our safe shelter right now. So obviously we're well away from windows. If you have a basement, that is the most ideal scenario for you to be in. Of course, if you don't have a basement, that's okay. Try to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible if this, as this tornado warning continues to push its way eastward. So if you're in Sallisaw, we're in the clear. You're hearing some thunder, you're hearing some lightning right now, but Sallisaw, if you're watching me right now, we're in the clear. This is just east of Sallisaw proper in terms of Hanson, Seven Oaks here. We had a little quick storm track on this. This is moving east at 25 miles an hour, so this is at a very slow crawl. And the area of circulation, if I kind of just circle it for you guys, again, it's not really moving really fast, but it's kind of on this broad area, roughly. And there's kind of some embedded circulation, so if I kind of go up and down this line. Again, if I'm not talking about you guys, whether we're in northwest Arkansas or elsewhere in the River Valley, that's good. We only have one tornado warning right now, and that's what we're kind of talking about, this area of rotation and I kind of have circled. So we'll kind of get a little quick storm track on this. Again, this, we'll zoom out here. We're focused in on Sequoyah County, and we'll kind of go back to radar here. And so here's that warning, right? The severe thunderstorm warning encompasses and basically surrounds this tornado warning. So it's warned, this severe thunderstorm warning warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and a couple embedded circulations, and specifically the embedded circulation that we're watching right now is this tornado warning just east of Salisal, north of Muldrow. Technically, Muldrow is right on the edge of this warning polygon, but if we're north of Muldrow, we got to be watching out for this. We got to be in our safe shelter right now, as this could produce a tornado. Right now, there's no indication that anything is on the ground. Doesn't mean we need to let our guard down for that warning. So that's what we're talking about right now. We'll wait for the next radar scan to update here in the next few minutes as that warning kind of continues to push through Interstate 40. In fact, speaking of Interstate 40, this area's circulation would probably be right on Interstate 40 as I kind of zoom in here. So we got Salisal, Hanson, Interstate 40 right along this area. We'll go back to velocity, kind of look at our storm winds right now, and see if we've got any updates in terms of our velocity. Again, right now we're looking at Hanson. If we're in Hanson vicinity, that's what we're talking about in terms of the tornado warned storm that kind of continues to push its way eastward. If we're in Maple, heads up, this is going to be working its way through your region here over the next several minutes. So we got to be in our safe shelter if we're under that tornado warning right now. Let's get a quick storm track on this. Again, this is radar indicated. We don't have any confirmation of this being on the ground at the moment. Doesn't mean we need to let our guard down like I just mentioned, but if we're in anywhere in this polygon, again, we're in Sequoyah County right now. So anyways, if we see that tornado warning, you see that rotation, we'll kind of put a quick storm track, and this is moving at 25 miles an hour. So it's moving at a slow crawl. We'll get that going here in this general vicinity. And so the towns I have listed, this is who we need to take shelter. If we're near Maple Chapel, this is going to be on your doorstep in the next 10 minutes if this rotation kind of holds together. Maple at 1:25 in the morning, Mineral Springs Church at 1:28, and then Blue Mouse School at 1:46. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now. That's what the National Weather Service is watching and monitoring. We don't have any new updates from the National Weather Service at the moment with this tornado warning, but they've been talking the last hour or two of some embedded circulations to kind of move along the leading edge of this line. And that's exactly what we're seeing out there. So we'll go back to reflectivity, what a lot of us are used to seeing out there. And we got one tornado warning and one severe thunderstorm warning. If we are in east of Salisal, that's who is under the gun for this tornado warning. Again, we're in Salisal, we're in Brushy right now. We don't have to talk about any rotation, but we're talking about that line of storms pushing in through southern Adair County, Sequoyah County, and even northern Lafleur County, as there still could be some embedded circulations. If we're watching in Fort Smith right now, we're certainly monitoring this storm. There's no tornado warning for either Fort Smith or the Van Buren proper area. Here's Crawford County Speedway. This is the Arkansas-Oklahoma, not county line, the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. And here's that tornado warning that we're still watching as that expires at 1:45 in the morning. So we're still going to be talking about a half an hour. Hopefully the rotation starts to die down a little bit. We don't have to talk about it as much. But we'll do a quick zoom out. And again, if we're in any of our towns between about Hanson, if we're north of Muldrow, Maple, we got to be in our safe shelter, in our safe space. Ideally the basement. If it's not a basement, maybe it's an inside closet, maybe it's an inside bathroom. Put as many walls and many walls between you and the outside as possible in order to kind of stay safe from a situation like this. We zoom out a little bit further away. This is what we're talking about. Northwest Arkansas, we're seeing some heavy showers, heavy thunderstorms right now. Nothing severe at the moment. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning line that extends basically right along the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. And again, that tornado warning is just northwest of Fort Smith. If you're just tuning in now, Fort Smith, you're not under a tornado warning at the moment. It's only just east of Salisal. So we'll zoom back in and look at the newest radar scan in terms of some of these embedded circulations. I'm not going to zoom in super far. I kind of want to see if we do have any embedded circulations. And if we kind of zoom in a little bit more, again, you see some really strong winds with this. Again, green's going toward the radar, the red's going away from the radar, and this kind of bright green, this bright, almost light blue, that's some very strong winds coming out of the storm. And if we kind of sample it, I'm kind of curious on seeing how strong those winds are. If I go to the Curie here. All right, so again, the radar start we're looking at is Fort Smith. So, I mean, this is another reason why we're looking at a severe thunderstorm warning, but also that tornado warning. We're sampling these winds a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand feet up in the atmosphere, and we're seeing those winds potentially translating to the surface as high as 50 to 60 miles an hour. So that's what we're watching out there. Here's Muldrow. So if we're in Muldrow, again, there's the tornado warning. It's just north. Here's the area of circulation, the area of rotation. If we're in eastern Sequoyah County, we got to be in our safe shelter right now. But again, you see those strong winds, and it looks like the newest radar scan just updated. That's why that 52 mile an hour kind of just changed on us. And so if we kind of, zoom in a little bit closer with some areas of rotation, definitely seeing that strong wind outburst that just went through Hanson. So if we're watching in Salsa, again, we're clear. You might hear the tornado siren still going off here in Hanson. The area of circulation has passed to your east. So now we're between about Maple and Muldrow. If you're along anywhere between Muldrow and Maple, that's what we have to watch for that area of circulation, that tornado warning. We're going to have strong winds regardless with this system. It's just if we can get those winds that kind of rotate tightly together and potentially produce a tornado. So that's what we're watching. Again, it's about 1:20 on the morning on your Saturday. We got one tornado warning to talk about. And if I zoom in a little bit further out, this is for our Oklahoma counties of Sequoyah County. And if this holds together, this area circulation, parts of Crawford County could be under the gun. So if we're in Van Buren, we're keeping our eye on it. Definitely probably maybe hearing some thunder, maybe seeing some lightning out there. A big severe thunderstorm warning, that's this big yellow polygon from about Stillwell to say maybe just north of Spiro in LaFleur County. That's that severe thunderstorm warning with this little area of circulation. We'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer. And Trevor, if you want to let me know, potentially when Joshua has his mic up by chance.
I'm up.
Okay, so Joshua Weisel also in the Weather Impact Center. Going to be also monitoring these storms as they become severe and as they are still severe with the tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning. Joshua, I'm going to still hang out on the wall here. If you see anything, if we're seeing anything on GR or anything like that, please let me know and we can get Trevor to maybe take your shot up here in the next few minutes. But in the meantime, we're still watching some of those strong, straight line winds, but also that rotation out there. If I kind of zoom out a little bit more.
I can help out with that if you need some.
I believe, here we go. All right, so we got some very strong winds. The area of rotation, the area of circulation is just north of Muldrow right now. You kind of see those winds going toward the radar, red going away from the radar. Here's a little area of circulation. We're just south of Maple. If we're in between Maple and Muldrow, we'll zoom in a little bit closer here and get some more towns. We're looking at, let's hear Blackjack here. What road is this? I believe that's 4720. From the Blackjack area, East 1092 Road. These numbers are very small, so I'm trying my best to kind of, give you a good idea what roads are impacted. It's basically right around the Blackjack area. That's where the potential tornado could be. Right now, we don't have any confirmation of anything on the ground. I'm checking Weather Service right now. The Sallisaw weather station had a 55 mile an hour wind gust. Again, that's that line of storms that's just pushed through. So we're probably talking 55, 60 mile an hour wind gusts with this bright green, this bright blue that we're talking about right now. And that's going to kind of continue to push its way in throughout the region. If I kind of zoom out a little bit more, if we are in basically anywhere along 648, Oklahoma 648, in between Maple and Muldrow, we got to be in our safe shelter. Again, I always try to preach, if it's a basement, then that's great. Again, if it's not a basement, try to get into the inner bathroom and innermost closet, maybe grab a pillow with you, just in the event that we do actually have a tornado touchdown in this vicinity. So here's Blackjack. We got some very strong winds rolling through Blackjack right now. And this tornado warning is flashing right now. They're indicating that they're going to continue that tornado warning. Sometimes they expire it if they're not seeing too much rotation out there. They're going to continue this warning. And if I zoom out a little bit more, they're just going to continue it still to the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, which is right here. Van Buren is in this vicinity. Here's Dora. Again, that's at the area of circulation right there. You kind of see that little bulge kind of just north of Muldrow, and that's that area of circulation. So if we're north of Muldrow, the warning basically kind of just clips you. Basically, the southern edge of that warning basically just clips you. So if then we're in Muldrow, we got to be in our safe shelter, just to be on the safe side as the circulation is going to pass probably just north of you, especially if you're on the north side of Muldrow. So that's what we're kind of watching over the next few minutes. And this warning is expires until 1:45 in the morning. This tornado warning, that is. The severe thunderstorm warning, of course, we still have those strong straight line winds possible. Even if you're south of Muldrow, if you're north of Bellefonte. And if we're in Crawford County, let's be on the lookout for this storm as it could potentially maintain its strength over the next several minutes. So we'll kind of watch that here. We'll go to the reflectivity and see what's going on here. Yes, so we got the severe thunderstorm warning. And if I'm not talking about your town or I'm not listing your town name, that's a good sign. Basically means you're not under the gun for the greatest threat right now. We see this little yellow polygon that's kind of flashing and blinking. That just means that the Weather Service is also going to continue with that severe thunderstorm warning as it kind of continues to pose its risk for some strong straight line winds. So if we're watching in Fort Smith, if we're watching from Van Buren, we're certainly keeping our eye on this. The tornado warning, which is just the only one at the moment, is just to our northwest, and we'll kind of get another storm track on that. And I believe it's still moving at 25 miles an hour, if I remember correctly. So we'll zoom in a little bit closer, and we'll talk about velocity. And if you're seeing anything right now, feel free to chime in.
All good. Just looking at some of the information behind the scenes, especially with the severe thunderstorm warning. One thing to note, they did put a tornado possible tag on the severe thunderstorm warning as a whole. And for those who don't know, it doesn't mean that a tornado is going to happen. It doesn't mean that one's occurring when you have these severe thunderstorm warnings with a tornado possible tag. There's just a couple different areas that we're watching within the leading edge of this line that are starting to rotate. It's not necessarily at the point where they need a warning like the one that is currently in portions of Sequoyah County, but just something to keep an eye on, that there are some areas that piqued their interest enough to add that part to the warning. Otherwise, 60-mile-per-hour winds were the hazard that they have for that warning with the severe thunderstorm warning that's into portions of northwest Arkansas, River Valley, and eastern Oklahoma. So the good news is I'm not seeing any sort of confirmation with this storm that there is a tornado, and it looks like NOAA's got a track on that, so we can go ahead and head back to that one. Here's a look at some of those times of arrival here coming up.
Okay, thank you for that, Joshua. Yeah, so just updating the tornado warning. So that's moving east at 30 miles an hour. So right now I have it moving east at 25, so I could redo that storm track. But again, if we're just north of Muldrow, that's where the circulation is. We got to be in our safe shelter. If we're in the north side of Muldrow, still be in the safe shelter for now at the time being as this continues to push its way eastward. Heads up in Blue Mouse School about 1:45 in the morning, about 15-20 minutes. Again, if we're in Sequoyah County, specifically eastern and northeastern Sequoyah County, that's really who's under the gun for this tornado warning. Like Joshua said, we don't have any confirmation that there's anything on the ground. And then, yes, heads up indoor about 1:45 in the morning as this kind of continues to work its way to the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line here within the next 20-25 minutes. So that's what we're watching out there.
Some little area, just real quick, little area that's starting to kind of pique my attention is this location south of Muldrow, southwest of Roland. It's not super intense or anything like that. This is not in the tornado warning, but looks like maybe another little notch trying to get going there along I-40. So that may be something else that we may need to watch here over the next, let's say 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, so definitely a couple different embedded circulations within this line that we're still going to be watching. Like Joshua just mentioned, you kind of have this one just southeast of Muldrow. This is technically outside the tornado warning, but as the Weather Service issued, you got this big, broad, severe thunderstorm warning, and you have that tornado possible tag. So yeah, we're still watching a couple embedded circulations. Here's Roland. If we're in Roland, we're certainly watching this. Here's this area of circulation between about Muldrow and Roland. And again, that's what we're talking about here as it continues to push its way eastward. Right now, I'm still checking the Weather Service chat, seeing if we have any other updates. if we kind of go back to reflectivity and what we're seeing out there, if we're seeing really a well-defined, especially with you have a big line segment like this, you're not really going to see a hook echo like you typically see in the movies, or whether you're watching, storm chasers or whatnot. When you typically have a line like that, you're sometimes looking for a little nudge or a little nub in this line. We don't really see a necessarily pronounced one, but if there's enough low-level wind shear that can get those raindrops to rotate and some of those winds aloft in the atmosphere to rotate, then obviously you could potentially get a quick spin-up tornado. And that's kind of what we're watching right now just east of Muldrow. So I think by now, and we'll go back to velocity here, by now most of that circulation is probably past Muldrow. We're probably still seeing some strong winds, but if we go back to storm relative velocity, again, very strong winds that we're talking about. In fact, I kind of want to sample how strong these winds are. Fort Smith radar is not super far away from here in Sequoyah County, but potentially, we're looking at wind gusts of about 65 miles an hour, and that's enough to bring, some tree limbs down. So, we always say, get to a basement, get to a little inner closet, inner bathroom, but even when you're in a severe thunderstorm warning, you get wind gusts that strong, that's enough, to topple some tree limbs down and whatnot. And obviously, we like to preach, also probably stay away from windows, especially when we're at a strong line of storms kind of pushing through the region. So that's what we're watching with some of those strong winds. If you kind of, sample the winds elsewhere, again, overall 60, 65 mile an hour wind gusts in this bright green and these bright blue areas. Again, we're looking at storm winds right now. So anytime you see the bright green, the bright blue, the Fort Smith radar is down here just south of the Fort Smith downtown area. So the radar is kind of shooting that beam up. These greens are going toward the radar. These reds are going away from the radar. Again, when you get the little tight couplet, you can start to see that counterclockwise rotation, and that's what we're trying to see just northeast of Muldrow. So if we're in Muldrow, we're still seeing some strong winds, some heavy rain, some thunder, but the circulation is actually passed just to our east. So kind of want to zoom in a little bit closer and kind of talk about, what's going on with this. If we're in Remy, if we're in west of Dora, I'm covering up Dora right now, but if we're west of Dora here, here's 40. Again, if we're west of Dora, we got to be watching this as this circulation here is pretty much on east 1090 road. We got north 4781 road. Again, these numbers are very small, so I hope I'm really listing off these road names pretty accurately here. If you kind of go back, zoom out, that's where the strong winds are, and it looks like they're continuing that severe thunderstorm warning and actually expanding it a little bit. So right now, I'm going to circle in the area of rotation and the area that we need to be most concerned about. Then I'll focus in on some of the other areas. So here's that area of rotation that we're watching. This is in Sequoyah County. Dora's right here. Van Buren's right here. We got Uniontown. Here's the Sequoyah Crawford County line. There's that area of rotation that I circled. And there's that tornado warning pretty much kind of cornered into eastern Sequoyah County. Here's Sallisaw, Brushy. We're in the clear. We're probably still seeing some heavy rain, hearing some thunder, some lightning out there. That's that area of circulation that's actually probably just moved a little bit eastward with the latest radar scan. If we're in Fort Smith, we're certainly watching it closely. Right now, the area of circulation is just to your northwest. If we're in Pensacola, if we're still in Van Buren, we're still watching some tiny little embedded circulations in that system. And so again, Joshua circled that, so thank you for that, Joshua. That's what that little area of rotation that we're watching. The Weather Service, has kind of mentioned that severe thunderstorm warning kind of got expanded. And so even though we're talking about this area of circulation in eastern Sequoyah County, if we look kind of broader sense, that severe thunderstorm warning encompasses a big portion of the area. So maybe you're not seeing rotation at your specific house, your specific neighborhood, but we're still seeing those wind gusts, of 60 miles an hour that are still possible with that. So we'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer with this tornado warning. Here's Remy. Here's Blue Mouse Road. Again, we talked about, I think it was Blue Mouse School or Blue Mouse Church here a few minutes ago. They're under the gun right now. And you see some strong colors, some strong greens and some strong blues. And anytime you see some strong, bright reds next to each other, that's what that can indicate some of that rotation out there. So there's definitely an indication of some very strong winds out there. And if you kind of look and potentially sample maybe how strong those winds are, we're looking at roughly 60, 65 mile an hour of those wind gusts. In fact, if you kind of look at this bright blue area, we're talking about 60, 65 miles an hour, and then you kind of look at the winds away, potentially 31 miles an hour. Basically just goes to show you we got that area rotation in eastern and northeastern Sequoyah County, and that's what we're watching at right now. So if we kind of get maybe another storm track on this, I believe this is still moving in, At last time I checked, it was east at 30 miles an hour. So we kind of get a quick storm track on this. It's basically right around Remy here. We get very strong winds. Again, these are wind gusts of 60, 65 miles an hour. There might even be some damage, and it might not even be associated with a potential spin-up tornado. But if we kind of look and get a quick storm track here east about 30 miles an hour roughly as this kind of works its way into Crawford County, as I'm kind of pointing there, it basically gives us some of those towns that we're going to be watching. Overall, we're going to be seeing really the next 15, 20 minutes as those towns kind of continue to be under the gun. So if we're in the northeastern Sequoyah County, which is basically in this vicinity, we got to be in our safe shelter. If you want to bring a pillow with you, just to be on the safe side, maybe turn your TV up, turn whatever device you're maybe watching us on. Obviously, those are all good signs to be looking at. Again, Crawford County Speedway going to be under the path of this. Right now, as of now, the tornado warning only goes to the Arkansas state line. So this is only cornered into eastern and northeastern Sequoyah County. Right now, as I speak, here's Roland. We're looking north of Roland. Earlier, we mentioned Roland for maybe watching some areas of circulation. Right now, any little embedded areas of circulation would probably be past to your east. And if we kind of look at that storm track moving east at 30 miles an hour, remember I mentioned Blue Mouse School. So if you know Blue Mouse School, if you live kind of close to Blue Mouse School, we got to be in our safe shelter, in our safe space here these next several minutes as that tornado warning continues. Dora, 1:40 in the morning, so within about 5 to 10 minutes, that potential circulation could be on your doorstep. We're looking at Northridge Middle School there about 1:50 in the morning, Christian Life Academy at 1:50, and then we mentioned Dripping Springs about 1:50 in the morning, Crawford County Speedway about 1:54. That's it. That circulation would continue to withhold and kind of hold itself together. Right now, that warning, though, I believe goes until about 1:45 in the morning. So,
and it looks like they're going to go ahead and extend that tornado warning as well. Okay. Based off of what we're seeing from the Weather Service chat. So, still, if you're in this area, continue to seek your tornado precautions. That latest scan, it's still looking a little bit brighter, but this looks like it is continuing to kind of go through phases where it intensifies just a little bit and then it kind of broadens out. This is what we call cycling. So it's cycled a couple times, but with the radars, you can see kind of behind me, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. So when you're looking at the radar, and you see these little areas of rotation where they're coming tightly together, where it's the greens and the reds. That's what that's what grabs our attention, and we go, okay, well, that needs some investigating. And then when it continues and then it starts to get a little bit tighter, maybe a little bit brighter, that's when we start to focus on that and get into these warnings like we're dealing with here. So it looks like that warning is going to go ahead and maybe include portions of the River Valley as that is starting to plot on the map there. So again, even if there isn't a tornado on the ground right now, go ahead and seek your tornado safety precautions. That's the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Cover yourself with pillows, blankets, protective sporting equipment. Lowest floor, centermost room, that's a closet or a bathroom. If you don't have that option, you can always get into a hallway and just make sure that there's no exterior walls or windows around you. Go ahead and get to that safe space. So go ahead and let's go ahead and take a look at the radar here real quick now that that warning has plotted.
And Joshua, it looks like we have another tornado warning for the Fort Smith proper area. I believe another warning just got issued.
Okay, so that is the one that we were talking about a little bit earlier. That's that southern rotation, I believe. So this includes, I believe, downtown Fort Smith, Van Buren, Kibler, and Alma. So if you are hearing these locations and you're getting up and you're hearing these storms sounding loud and everything like that, go ahead and get to shelter. We'll get you through this. So this does include the city of Fort Smith. It includes Van Buren and Kibler. Let's go ahead and take a look at the radar real quick. And is that another warning that they're kind of stacking on top of that warning there?
I believe so. Okay, so it looks like, I guess overall we got 3 tornado warnings. So we got the one that we talked about in northeastern Sequoyah County. We had the one that just got issued about a couple minutes ago for Fort Smith area. So if you're in Fort Smith, we're also in Van Buren. We're hearing the tornado sirens. We got to be in our safe shelter. Let's get to the basement. Pretty much right now as that circulation is pretty much about to pass into the Arkansas state line. And as Joshua just mentioned, we pretty much have 2 tornado warnings. I think what the Weather Service is doing here is they had this little embedded circulation right around the Fort Smith downtown area almost. And then they probably saw some more embedded circulations within this line. and they probably just expanded that tornado warning to kind of just include a little bit broader of an area. So if we're in Fort Smith, if we're in Van Buren, if we're in Alma, I'm sure Lavaca is probably right on the cusp of one of these tornado warnings. We got to be in our safe shelter and our safe space as that kind of continues to push its way eastward. So that's what we're watching right now. Again, we're actually kind of getting pretty close to the radar. You kind of see this little radar beam kind of rotating and circulating. That's where the radar is, just south of Fort Smith area. So, you know, as these little areas of circulation kind of get closer to the radar, our little wind data and our radar data gets a little messy almost. So it's kind of hard to kind of detect where these little circulations and where these little spin-ups occur. But because we're still dealing with this line of storms and kind of just a short favorable environment for some little little areas of rotation, the Weather Service is kind of just erring on the safe side between about Dora, Fort Smith, Van Buren, Pecola. Actually, if you're just northeast of Pecola, that's where that tornado warning is, as that area of circulation kind of continues to push its way eastward. So,
and just real quick, we may ought to take a look at some of these Fort Smith cameras too, just because I believe this is going to be pretty close to some of our Fort Smith cameras, maybe Mercy and ACHE here. And let's go ahead and see if we can see anything with those cameras.
I think I will say we have it pulled up behind me, and Joshua, I'm not sure what direction we're facing right now.
I can definitely look into that. So let's go ahead and go back to the green wall, and I'll see if I can pull that up.
Well, Joshua's kind of taking a look at what direction we're going to be pointing that Fort Smith camera. I kind of just want to get back to radar real quick, just show everybody what's going on right now. We got a couple different tornado warnings. If this goes to Doppler radar here, it's loading within the next few seconds. There we go. So we've got a couple different tornado warnings. If we're in northwest Arkansas, we're seeing some heavy showers, some heavy rain, some thunder, lightning, but we're in the clear. We don't have any tornado warnings. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings. It's loud. It's probably waking you up. We don't have any warnings at the moment. We're focusing on the river valley with some couple embedded circulations in here, as this line of storms has really kind of taken advantage of the environment and kind of become a bit more favorable as it's crossing in to the Arkansas state line. And so if we're in Fort Smith, we're in Alma, there's probably lots of folks watching from that vicinity. We still got to be in our safe shelter. We got to be in our safe space. Ideally a basement. If it's not a basement, it's an innermost closet. It's an innermost bathroom, as this kind of continues to push its way eastward. And this includes Fort Smith, Alma, Van Buren. We're probably hearing the tornado sirens. I get that that can make you feel nervous. That can make you feel anxious. If you're kind of freezing up right now, you don't know what to do. Again, we'll just walk you through it. You got to get to the basement pretty much right now, because we have the embedded circulations with the possible tornado in here. You kind of see it says radar indicated. Doesn't mean we need to let our guard down. Doesn't mean we need to, keep sitting on the couch or in the bedroom, waiting for something to happen. We certainly need to, take the warning seriously. We should take every tornado warning seriously, for that matter. But again, that's what we're watching. And it kind of looks confusing, but we have two tornado warnings, pretty much encompasses the same area. If you're in northern Sebastian County, if you're in northern Crawford County, and if you are in southwestern Franklin County, that's where the tornado warning is issued. So if we go back to velocity, we'll take a look at what's going on here. And right now, we don't have any confirmation that anything's on the ground, but we'll certainly go to areas of velocity and rotation. We're looking really close to the radar here. So, our radar data is getting a little messy right now. Here's the Fort Smith area. Again, since we're so close to the radar, which is right here, that's kind of what this little circle is. Since we're so close to the radar, it's really hard to detect exactly where these little embedded circulations is. That's probably why the Weather Service in Tulsa is basically kind of warning this, just because we have a favorable environment along this line, pretty much right over Fort Smith, right over Van Buren, where you could get an isolated, quick spin-up tornado, and that's when you need to take the warning seriously. Got to get in our basement. Obviously, got to get in a bathroom or a closet. So that's what we're looking at right now. Again, I'm trying to look at some better radar data, but as this line kind of pushes its way eastward, we're going to be watching that, and we'll kind of get a quick storm track on this.
And by the way, the Mercy Fort Smith camera is now facing west.
Okay, thank you for that, Joshua. I want to do one little quick storm track on this, east at 45 miles an hour, and then we'll go ahead and take that camera and see what we're looking at, as Joshua has just kind of directed that camera a little bit. So if we'll look, oh, that's the wrong one. If we'll go east here at 45, that's what that warning is, what the tornado warnings are warned for in terms of the speed. And we'll kind of take this whole line out, because there's some embedded circulations that are a little tricky to kind of point out, but this is what we're looking at. Fort Smith, it's pretty much right on us. So if we're in Fort Smith, we're watching right now. We're hopefully still in our basement. We're hopefully still in our safe shelter. until we give you guys the all clear. We're looking at K. Rogers Park pretty much right now as well, Carroll and Cross Park. Barling on the east side of Fort Smith, 1:51 in the morning, about less than 10 minutes. Rudy, in about 10 minutes. Heads up in Alma, we've mentioned you guys. The storm's not up to you yet, but the warning is encompassing the Alma area. That's at 1:55 in the morning. Arrowhead Assault Strip at 1:59. The John Budweiser Cane also about 2 a.m. That's where Lavaca is located, also 2 a.m. in the morning. Mulberry, about 2:08, so within about the next half hour. And then if we're in Pleasant View, as that circulation continues to hold itself together, potentially we're looking at Pleasant View by about 2:10 and 2:11 in the morning. So that's what we're watching. Fort Smith, Alma, Van Buren, the tornado warning is for you guys. We don't have confirmation of anything on the ground as of yet, but we're so closely monitoring that to get any reports. And I'm kind of curious if we can kind of get to that Fort Smith camera. And I got it pulled up here. And Josh, you did say this is pointed west now. I know the storm's right on top of us.
Yeah, so both of these are now facing west, and I believe ACHE is also facing west at the moment as well.
Okay.
Keeping an eye on that kind of back behind the scenes. Haven't really seen anything. There's been a couple of ominous looking clouds, but as that leading edge is moving in, of course, it's going to look like that. So, not every ominous cloud indicates a tornado, but we're keeping an eye on this. Regardless if we see something or not, go ahead and seek your tornado safety precautions. The tricky thing with this, and Noah's mentioned this a couple different times now, is it's not your supercell storm where it just fires up and it's obvious what it is and it lasts pretty long. Sometimes you can get these quick spin-ups and they only last maybe a couple seconds to a couple minutes, so they can happen pretty quickly. So you're going to want to get to your shelter here pretty quickly. The other thing too, we have numerous tornado warnings around the Fort Smith area, 4 warning boxes to be exact. So if you're anywhere from Mountainburg all the way down to Fort Smith, just to the north of Muldrow, Kibler, Alma, Dyer, Van Buren, Barling, Lavaca, Rudy, Cedarville. If you're in any of those locations that I just mentioned, you're under a tornado warning of, one of the several that we have going on right now. So go ahead. Don't go and try and look at this either, as he's mentioned too. Again, these don't happen and they last for a long period of time. They happen pretty quickly, so you're not going to be able to see it if you try to go outside and look at it. So these tornado warnings are still in effect, and it's moving through numerous communities. So regardless of where you're at, we have all these polygons. It looks a little bit confusing. Go ahead and seek shelter. If we're not mentioning your community and you're wondering about the severe thunderstorm warning, just want to bring to your attention, again, 60-mile-per-hour winds, maybe up to 65 to 68-mile-per-hour winds have been sampled with the radar behind the scenes. So if you're in the severe thunderstorm warning, and I'll go ahead and see if I can sorry about that here. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, so the yellow polygon that you see here, if you're in this, and we're not talking about you, it's not that we're overlooking you. We have a couple different tornado warning boxes, but if you're in the severe thunderstorm warning, expect strong winds. It's going to sound scary, but the good news for you is the strongest areas of rotation that we're looking at are currently into these polygons, and it looks like they dropped one of them. So now we're down to 3. And we'll be tracking these very carefully. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Noah. And just another thing to mention too, on the radar kind of behind the scenes, it looks like one of the areas still that's a little bit more notable, not necessarily super concerning, but one of the stronger areas looks to be maybe just near the community of Rena and just northwest of Van Buren at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Joshua. Like Joshua just mentioned, that Sequoyah County tornado warning did expire pretty much a minute ago. So if we're in Sequoyah County and you're wondering, we still have to be under the gun, or we still need to be in our safe shelter, safe space, the rotation's well off to our east. It's pretty much crossing into the Arkansas state line right now. So we got Sallisaw, Muldrow right now. We've just gotten hit with some heavy rain, some lightning. Maybe there's some small tree limbs down. I don't know. We don't have any reports as of yet. But again, we're going to be talking about that warning expiring. However, this blinking polygon right now from about Fort Smith to Alma basically just means that they're going to kind of continue that tornado warning, and this expires at 2 a.m. Of course, it could get extended. It's actually going to this is probably what this flashing polygon means. Probably going to mean it gets extended there for the Fort Smith area, for the Alma area. If we're in Fort Smith right now, we're getting pounded with some heavy rainfall, obviously some loud lightning, or not some loud lightning, excuse me, loud thunder, I mean. And this area of circulation, though, is probably just east of Fort Smith area and probably close to 540. So we'll zoom in a little bit close again. We don't have great radar data because we're so close to the radar site, but we'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer right now and talk about what's going on in the Fort Smith area. If you're in Fort Smith downtown, you're getting pounded right now, but the area of circulation is probably just past you to your east. Heads up, though, in Barling, we got to be in our safe shelter. If you're in Lavaca by the giant Budweiser can, if you know where that is, we got to be in our safe shelter right now. And if we look at our velocity and our storm winds, again, it's really hard to detect what's going on just because we're so close to the radar. We're only looking up maybe a couple hundred feet from potentially where these area circulations is, and that's kind of where the area of storms is. We see Barling here. We still got to be in our safe shelter. If we're in White Bluff as well, we got to be in our safe shelter. Lavaca is also behind me. Van Buren, let's actually focus in a little bit further north and see if we see any areas of circulation for areas in Van Buren. There is some. It's not the strongest signature that we've ever seen, but here's Van Buren area, downtown Van Buren, K. Rogers Park, the Arkansas River Bridge. This is kind of a broad area rotation that we're still kind of watching, that we kind of have this pointer at. And again, that's why these tornado warnings have kind of been issued for a little area of circulation here by about north of Van Buren area, but also kind of south, closer to I-540 and Fort Smith area. We got a couple different areas of circulation, and that's why that warning, or I guess I should say the two tornado warnings, are still issued and still kind of continue. So if we're in Van Buren, we still got to be in our safe shelter, in our safe space. Again, we got Alma just behind my head there. We'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer. Right now we're focusing in on Van Buren. I talked about Fort Smith a little bit earlier. Fort Smith's getting hammered right now. Van Buren, it's very broad, if you will, in terms of the rotation, but wherever it would probably be either right on top of Van Buren or just to the north. Again, it's kind of hard to detect just because we're kind of a little close to the radar with that radar site being in Fort Smith. I kind of want to zoom out a little bit more. If you kind of take a look at, go back to radar and go back to radar reflectivity here, we're starting to see some of those heavier showers and those heavier thunderstorms kind of continue to push its way through. And again, we got, I believe it's 3 different tornado warnings. We got the one in Fort Smith and Van Buren. Here's that leading edge of that line where some embedded circulations could be. We got this tornado warning. This is actually on the northern side of Crawford County. This actually was from the Sequoyah County circulation. It expired in Sequoyah County, but it's continued to extend into Crawford County. So if we're in Cedarville, if we're in Mountainburg, we're just outside the tornado warning, but we're certainly keeping our eye on it if this area of little circulations and spin-ups can kind of continue and take advantage of a bit of a favorable environment out there. Joshua, I haven't checked, but is this Crawford County cell, is also the Fort Smith cell, the tornado warning cell, are they both moving east at 45?
Let me check. I believe that they are moving at 45 miles an hour. So I think that's for all of these little warning boxes that we have here. Okay. So yeah, moving east at 45 miles an hour, yeah, across the board.
Okay, what I want to do here is kind of just do a little line along that leading edge where all those areas of circulations are. So kind of just east of Fort Smith, kind of on top of Van Buren. And even keep in mind with the severe thunderstorm warning, I believe it still has a tornado possible tag. It just means that, yes, we're still talking about strong straight line winds of 60 mile an hour wind gusts, and potentially we're watching a quick spin up, but it's not enough to warn a tornado warning. We still have tornado warnings in the Fort Smith area, and if you're just north of Fort Smith, in Crawford County. We kind of put a storm track on this, especially with any areas that could maybe get a quick spin up there within a minute or two. We're looking at Barling pretty much right now. Rudy within the next 5 minutes. Alma is going to be on our doorstep between about 5 and 7 minutes. Again, we mentioned the giant Budweiser can in Lavaca by about 2 in the morning. Mulberry 2:10, so within the next 20 minutes. If these little areas of circulation can hold themselves together. Charleston, 2:15 in the morning. If we have anyone watching from Charleston, Branch, not too far away from the east there, at 2:20 in the morning. Radcliffe, more the same, 2:25. And then if it continues to maintain its strength, we could be talking about Ozark by about, again, 2:25 in the morning. So within the next 30 to 40 minutes. So that's what we're watching.
Just real quick, taking a look at some of our RDOT cameras, we have some pretty intense winds now moving highway I-40 at Highway 59, exit 5. We got some vehicles that are stopped. Not quite sure. The winds just picked up there for a second, so if we have a traffic camera, may pop that up here.
What did you say this was at again, Josh?
This is Highway 59, exit 5. And if you have the traffic hit in your show, you may be able to pop it up. I got it full screen here. Now, keep in mind this banner is going to be not the correct banner, but as you can see, we've got some vehicles stopped, and this is going to be very close to that area of rotation. And we had some intense winds. It looks like it's starting to calm down a little bit there, but you can see definitely some strong winds. Looks like some vehicles have decided to stop. I wouldn't stop in the middle of the road. If you can get off to the side, that's a lot better. Definitely don't do it under a bridge either, but just looking at some of these cameras close to this area of rotation, as you can see, some pretty intense winds as that's starting to move through. So this is something that I'll be keeping an eye on here behind the scenes if we want to go ahead and go back to radar.
So yeah, definitely strong winds regardless with that. And what we kind of looked at was those areas just north of Fort Smith. That was basically pretty much right along Interstate 40 with those very strong winds, very strong wind out there, really whipping that rain. Obviously, lots of thunder and lightning with these storms. If we kind of look at storm winds and the velocity, definitely a couple embedded areas of circulation east of the Crawford County Speedway. Remember, we got multiple different tornado warnings extending from about Crawford County all the way south through the Arkansas River, so extending down to Sebastian County. And these little areas of circulation, I'm not going to highlight any specific one because these things kind of flare up a minute, they kind of die down the next minute. Basically just goes to show you that anywhere within this line I'm going to kind of draw has that potential for seeing these little areas of circulation. So that's kind of where I'm kind of drawing this line. If we're east of this line, we still got to be in our safe shelter. If we're in Fort Smith, we're getting pelted with some strong winds, some heavy rain, lots of lightning for the Crawford County Speedway. If we live in western side of Van Buren, also if we live in Dora, we're getting pounded with some very strong winds out there. But right now we're talking about the potential for seeing a couple isolated spin-up circulations east of that line I just drew. And we'll kind of go back to reflectivity. And I don't think we have any word from the National Weather Service recently. Right now, as of right now, it's almost 2 a.m. in the morning on your Saturday. As of right now, we see, I believe it's 2 or 3 tornado warnings. Any area in red is a tornado warning. And right now, we don't have anything confirmed on the ground, but this little line from about east of Uniontown, south through about South Fort Smith area has become just a little bit favorable for an isolated quick spin-up tornado. Again, if we're in Alma, we got to be in our safe shelter. It's going to be on your doorstep within the next 5 minutes. So if we're in Alma, let's watch it. Mountainburg, we're going to also watch you guys as it's going to continue to work its way eastward there. And if we'll just zoom out real quick, just talk about it for a few seconds. If you're in Northwest Arkansas, you just got pounded. If you were in Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, nothing severe right now. Obviously, it was very loud with some thunder and some lightning, obviously, but nothing too crazy that we can't handle. Obviously, in the River Valley, we've taken advantage of a little bit more of a favorable low level wind shear environment, and that's what we're talking about. Pretty much right on top of Fort Smith, and it's actually just east of us. And if we kind of jump back to velocity, we'll take a look. If anything's changed with the next velocity scan. We're very close to the radar. We're seeing very strong winds here. I mean, we're measuring winds upwards of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Van Buren area that we're still getting pelted at. We show that RDOT traffic camera. Definitely don't want to be driving out on the roadways when you have those heavy, strong winds just pelting the rain at your car. Obviously, it reduces the visibility. I mean, it's really late at night to begin with, but I'm sure there's a few folks out and about. Here's the Fort Smith radar site. The radar data can kind of get a little spotty the closer we are to the radar. So that's what we're kind of watching as it kind of continues to push its way eastward. Here's Mulberry. We got Alma. Alma's going to be on your doorstep here in the next few minutes. Mulberry, we also got to keep in mind that these little areas of circulation could potentially hold themselves together over the next several minutes as we kind of continue to monitor that line. Any new words on any updates, Joshua? Or
I'm not seeing any new updates on my end, but one thing that I'm starting to notice here with the line, if you want to zoom out, notice it's still that northwest to southeast kind of area of the line that you look for embedded spin-ups, but notice it's not as sharp with the the shape of this storm. It's starting to kind of kind of even out almost. So the hope is here over the next little bit, and I know this sounds weird, but when you're talking QLCS tornado potential, you kind of look for these little segments in the line where it's not just a solid bow all the way down. You look for these segments where it's northwest to southeast. I could get into a lot more details, but simply put, we look for these areas because that's where the ingredients are better for more of those spin-ups. If you look at that, it's not necessarily as defined as it was earlier, as it looks like it's starting to kind of catch up with the rest of the line. So the hope for that is, at the moment, that maybe that means that this is going to start to not be as intense as it was earlier. Certainly, it's going to be a problem in terms of those winds, as we're still, looking behind the scenes. Some of these RDOT cameras show some pretty intense winds, regardless if it's in the tornado warning or if it's near an area of rotation or not. So, if you're in the tornado warning, go ahead and remain in shelter, just because this isn't over yet. But over the next hour or two, hopefully these trends help out a little bit with the overall potential. But regardless, at the moment, still some pretty intense winds out there. And it looks like we have that Mercy camera up. Still looking to the west, but as you can see, it's still raining. It's still storming at the moment, but it's not that intense wind that we were seeing just a little bit ago. I'm sure it's still pretty breezy out there, still maybe a little bit loud. Go ahead and if you are in your shelter and you're, not near the area of rotation, just wait a couple more minutes until that has fully cleared out, just to be safe, because there still could be some pretty intense winds on the backside of this. Let it just fully clear out, and then you'll be good. But right now, the other thing, too, just to keep an eye on, the areas of rotation that we've been talking about, still there, and kind of just behind the scenes looking at some of those areas. I think the more concerning areas at the moment still look to be near the community of Rudy, just to the northwest of Alma. And then there's another area. It's hard to see with the radar just because we're so close to that radar site, but this would be currently near Highway 59 south of Van Buren, as that's another area of rotation. And we got some lightning here at the studio. So regardless, for you that are watching in Northwest Arkansas, you may be going, why aren't you talking about our neck of the woods? It's loud, it's scary out there. We have people new to the area. This may be their first time dealing with strong storms, and it can be a scary thing. The good news is, at the moment, no warnings for Northwest Arkansas as a whole, just a portion of Washington County, and that's for some strong winds. If you're elsewhere in Northwest Arkansas and it sounds pretty loud, well, that's because it's some thunder, obviously, some, gusty winds, but it's not severe. So just to kind of ease the concern there for Northwest Arkansas, if it sounds loud and scary, it's just that. So the good news is no warnings except for a part of Washington County. The other thing that we're watching, too, is still the potential for those embedded spin-ups. And the good news is, Noah, it looks like they went ahead and dropped off that secondary tornado warning.
It would appear so. And I think what the Weather Service might do is, just kind of continue the severe thunderstorm warning, and this include the tornado possible tag, which is good news. We certainly want that. Obviously, we don't need to let our guard down, especially if we're east of Fort Smith, if we're east of Van Buren. That's what we're going to be watching with that potential strong line of storms. As Joshua just mentioned, if we kind of take a look at the radar here, it's kind of near Rudy where that little area of circulation was, and even just north of the Alma area. That's where the little area of circulation is. And again, it's kind of pointed there just north of Alma. So if we're still in Alma, we got to be in our safe shelter. If we're in Rudy, we certainly have to be in our safe shelter and our safe space here in the next several minutes before we kind of give you guys the all clear. I'd probably say if we're in the Fort Smith area, we're pretty much all clear, as that line of storms is pretty much past you to the east. If we're in, Sequoyah County, I pretty much said you guys are good to go, as that line of storms is kind of continue to push its way eastward. We'll jump back into the radar real quick. I should say, well, we are in the radar. Reflectivity is what I meant. And there's that line of storms. Again, it's going to be packing a strong punch of straight line winds. There's probably wind gusts of 50 to 60 mile an hour with this. And actually, I take that back. This warning, severe thunderstorm warning that extends into Charleston, into Franklin County here, just west of Ozark. This severe thunderstorm warning, this isn't actually issued for 60 mile an hour wind gusts. The Weather Service is actually issuing this for 70 mile an hour wind gusts. The potential for seeing wind gusts as high as 70 miles an hour from a place like Greenwood. Greenwood, you're getting hit with some very strong wind right now. But if we're in Charleston, if we're in Radcliffe, we're in Branch, if we're in Lavaca, it's probably hitting Lavaca right now. But if we are in some of those towns and communities we got to be under the gun. Make sure we're staying away from windows, as strong straight line winds up to 70-mile-an-hour winds can certainly cause some issues, as this line of storms is really just taking advantage of a favorable environment within the last hour or so. So that's what we're watching with a severe thunderstorm warning. And I believe, Joshua, they canceled the tornado warning, it looks like, for Crawford County that we were talking about in Alma and Rudy. Let's still watch this little nub just north of Alma. In fact, we'll look at the latest velocity on that latest scan. I know they technically just dropped the tornado warning right now, but that's what we're kind of watching here. Again, it makes sense why they dropped it, because the rotation isn't super strong. It's not the strongest signal that you've ever seen. It's definitely very broad, and that's good news. That's what we want to see. But if we're in Alma, I still think we need to be in our safe shelter, and we need to be in our safe space until that line of storms continue to push its way eastward. Van Buren, we're getting pelted with some very strong wind and probably some loud thunder right now, more the same in Fort Smith, as that line of storms continues to push its way eastward. If we're in Mulberry, we technically don't have a tornado warning right now. I would still treat this as a tornado warning, just because with a line like this and what the Weather Service has warned the last several minutes, you can still get a couple embedded circulations here, such as this one kind of right around Alma. Again, it's very broad. We don't have a tornado warning right now. They just technically canceled a couple of those, but we have that severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado possible tag potentially on that. So I believe, Joshua, correct me if I'm wrong, are these still moving at 45 miles an hour to the east?
I believe so. So again, these are now no longer tornado warned, but as Noah mentioned just a little bit ago, actually it looks like there's a part of this also moving at 25 miles an hour. So I think that northern segment is moving a little bit faster than the southern part of that, as I'm looking at this behind the scenes. Something else to mention too, just because the tornado warning is no longer in effect, something I want to bring to your attention as well is this warning is for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and it is a considerable tag, meaning that there's some stronger winds with it. So now that we're getting into that 70-mile-per-hour range, a lot of people would be surprised that once you jump from the 60 to the 70-mile-per-hour range with those winds, it can, be a fairly dramatic uptick in what it can do damage-wise. So tree damage could be possible if you're in, if you're in a building next to a bunch of trees, get away from those windows and the doors, just because, winds that strong can carry those tree limbs if they snap off or fall off, and it can blow it into the side of your house. So intense winds right now with this storm. So even though it's not tornado warned, doesn't mean that it's not severe. So we're now kind of transitioning temporarily, at least for the moment, to that damaging wind potential. It also looks like they still have the tornado possible tag with both of those warnings. I've seen some people asking kind of what it means for them if they can go to bed. Just real quick, if you're in portions of northwest Arkansas, there's nothing severe at the moment. The ingredients aren't necessarily the strongest up in that location. This leading edge is going to be one of the main concerns, and parts of the river valley that really haven't seen those storms move in quite yet. So I wouldn't go, if you're worried, I wouldn't go to bed quite yet in the river valley. If you're headed to bed, make sure you have those alerts that can wake you up, just because these storms can change pretty quickly, and that's why we're staying on with you. So also just a little bit of housekeeping for behind the scenes. We'll stay live here on 5 News as we're tracking this, just because even though there's no tornado warning at the moment, that doesn't mean that these can't spin up pretty quickly. And we've seen that already a couple times where it looks like it's starting to weaken and then it pulses back up. So we'll be staying here with that. So again, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts with this area of the storms now moving into portions of the river valley. And heads up, if you're in Franklin County, Johnson County, if you're in Logan County, these storms are knocking on your door here pretty soon. So no warnings yet for our far eastern counties, but these storms are going to be heading in your direction here pretty quickly. So looks like Noah's going to get a track on that line of storms. And something else to highlight, Noah, and I'm sure you're seeing it too, it looks like it's more of a bow segment at the minute. And for those at home wondering what that means, when you start to see these bowing segments, it's an indicator that there is some pretty intense winds with this.
Yes, absolutely. And a good point that Joshua is making, that bowing line segment, pretty much that rain-cooled air that's kind of just shoving all that rain out and all those strong winds off. Anytime you kind of get that bowing line segment like we have here on Doppler radar, that's exactly when you kind of get those strong winds. And that's why the severe thunderstorm warning isn't just for a baseline warning of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, but it's actually also for, say, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, as that's what we're going to be talking about here over the next several hours. So if we kind of take a look at potentially some of our traffic cameras, we're pretty much looking at Interstate 40 there. That's the Mulberry at exit 24. Again, the storms aren't necessarily at your doorstep necessarily, but if we're in kind of the Alma area, that's what we're going to be talking about here these next several hours.
I'll have to look into this, but it looks like maybe some accidents were reported.
I was going to say, yeah, we seen any accidents here? This is this Rogers Avenue at 540?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's Rogers Avenue. You can still see, and this is what we're talking about, the backside of the storm. Even though it has passed, it's still going to be pretty loud and scary, as you can see. Still pretty windy out there, and of course, lots and lots of lightning. So even when the storms pass, don't think that the winds are just going to immediately let up either. It's still looking pretty gusty behind there as well.
Again, if we kind of look at that storm track there of those storms, I have them moving east at 40 miles an hour just to be on the safe side. There's been kind of some discrepancies in terms of the warnings, but basically moving roughly about 40 miles an hour. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Union School at about 2:09, so pretty much right now. Again, we mentioned Charleston a little bit earlier at 2:16 in the morning. Branch, we mentioned you guys a little bit, 2:23 in the morning. Pleasant View High School, as that line continues to hold itself together. Some damaging winds. Again, this is warned for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, so a bit more of a stronger severe thunderstorm than usual. We're looking at Ozark Bible Institute at about 2:30 in the morning. Same with Radcliffe. Ozark at 2:33 in the morning. And actually, as I'm mentioning Ozark, I'm not sure, Joshua, if our cameras, if it's directed to the west or if it's directed to the east right now, but essentially we'll probably have to direct that to the west here in the next few minutes. So that's what we're talking about. Here's the good news. If you're still watching us right now, we're about 2:10 in the morning. We don't have any tornado warnings right now. However, this line of storms extending from southern Crawford County all the way through Sebastian County, it's going to be in Franklin County here within the next couple of minutes. This is warned for strong straight-line winds of 70 miles an hour and a tornado possible tag, which just means that the Weather Service is monitoring for little areas of rotation along this line, but it's not enough to warn an actual tornado warning. So that's some good news. Again, if we're tuning in from the River Valley, that's really who's talking about those severe thunderstorm warnings is pretty much from Greenwood all the way north to Mountainburg. So Mountainburg, I mentioned to you guys earlier saying we need to keep our eye on it. We still need to keep our eye on it, but at least it's a severe thunderstorm warning as opposed to a tornado warning. Still getting hit with some heavy rain, some showers and storms. Let's continue to watch this little nub area north of Alma. If we're in Fort Smith, the severe weather threat is pretty much pushed to our east, more the same in Van Buren. If we're also in northwest Arkansas, we'll kind of zoom out a little bit more. We haven't really touched on northwest Arkansas a whole lot, and that's just because they haven't been dealt with the worst of the weather. Obviously seeing some nice beneficial rainfall out of it. Let's hope we don't get any flash flooding. We don't have any flood warnings or anything like that at the moment. But the heavier line of showers and storms pushing through Carroll County. Here's Madison County, Huntsville getting hit and slammed with some heavy rain, some loud thunder out there. We just got a couple severe thunderstorm warnings right now, and these are packing a bit of a punch. In fact, let's kind of go back into winds right now in our storm velocity winds and kind of just see potentially how strong those winds are moving, because anytime you get a little bowing segment like this, it's kind of just bowing out. Kind of think of a bow and arrow, pretty much. That's kind of what we call it. That essentially that's what's kind of shoving all that rain-cooled air, all that wind out to portions of Charleston. Lavaca getting hit right now. For an Alma, we're getting hit. Mulberry's probably knocking on your doorstep pretty much right now if it's not already. Here's Mulberry just to the east of Alma. So you're hearing the thunder. You're probably seeing the lightning if you're out. I wouldn't recommend being outside. Again, probably stay away from windows, especially with these strong straight line winds. We'll zoom in a little bit closer and kind of go up and down this line and who's kind of under the gun here. Dean Springs, we're getting hit pretty hard right now. We're in Mulberry, like I just mentioned, Bluff Hole Park, just to the southeast of town. Here's Riverdale. Here's the river. Here's the Arkansas River that kind of follows along the lines. Kibler, Dyer, that's what we're seeing, those strong winds. And if we're kind of just east of that in Riverdale, we'll kind of go south into portions of Charleston. The giant Budweiser can getting pelted with some rain right now. Obviously, Barling and Fort Smith getting pelted. Here's Charleston. So if you're watching from Charleston, it's knocking on your doorstep. Some very strong winds with this. We'll kind of continue to go south throughout the line here, as this is still warned from about Greenwood. Greenwood, pretty much the strongest winds are pretty much going right now. You're getting hit with it right now. And then into Washburn, here into southeastern Sebastian County. So that's what we're talking about right now. Let's look at winds real quick and kind of see how strong some of our winds are if we look at our velocity. And on first glance, there's definitely some strong winds, but in terms of how strong they are, we'll find out here in the next few seconds. We'll sample some strong winds with this. I will say this is probably a good indicator that maybe our winds aren't as strong as what they were, say, 10 minutes ago, because here's the radar site, kind of near Pocola, you're south of Fort Smith. It's sampling the storm. It's not really sampling it that far up in the atmosphere, so I feel like this is a pretty accurate reading on what's happening at the surface. 45, 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts right now, so at least that's a little bit better than, say, as high as 70. I would still make sure we're staying away from windows as that severe thunderstorm warning kind of continues to push its way eastward. We'll kind of measure some other areas. We got a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust. This is probably measured, several hundred feet up in the atmosphere. Probably some of that's translating to the surface as this pushes its way eastward through time. So we'll get you back to radar, and we'll talk about it here a little bit. Very strong winds with this. We just got that severe thunderstorm warning moving east about 40 miles an hour. I do want to just double check any rotation with that system, that little area just east of Alma. We do see some bright reds, and it might seem alarming right now. Overall, you want to see these bright reds and these bright greens really tight together. We're just not really necessarily seeing that at the moment, and that's good. But again, we're still just keeping our eye on it as there's very strong winds kind of coming away from the radar, and then those winds kind of going toward the radar from the east. So that's what we're talking about. Mulberry, definitely stay away from windows. We don't have any tornado warnings or anything at the moment, but we're continuing to kind of watch that and kind of be on air here the next couple of minutes as we're still watching those severe warnings. And then, Joshua, do we have any updates on maybe any other RDOT cameras that I can take potentially, or?
Haven't really seen anything. We're starting to get to that. Area in the coverage area where there's kind of that gap on I-40 where there's not a whole lot of street lights. So,
okay.
Not able to really see that. Something that I'm keeping an eye on behind the scenes is the power outages. Now, we haven't gotten the latest update yet, so it may start to go up. But at the moment, I'm a little bit pleased to see that we're not seeing a ton of outages in portions of the River Valley. Now, of course, if you're watching on Facebook or something like that, you can go ahead and comment. I'm taking a look at those comments here to see if there's any sort of reports of damage or anything like that. But right now, not a whole lot of outages in the River Valley. Next update, that may change, but it does look like there's just about 100 outages in Washington County. So, again, we'll be watching this to see if those go up. That may be a sign of maybe some wind damage at least. But at the moment, Sebastian County only has 4. So we'll have to wait and see that next update if any more come in.
Okay, thank you for that, Joshua. We did get a report from a spotter in terms with the National Weather Service chat saying that there was a report of a tornado. We don't necessarily have this confirmed. This could have been straight line winds. It could have been a brief spin-up tornado. This was 2 miles north of Van Buren. This was about almost 10 minutes ago when that kind of little area of circulation pushed through. So that's something that should be interesting. Was it either just strong straight line winds? Because obviously we've seen wind gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour. That's enough to do some minor tree damage, also some damage to some siding and some roofs. So that's certainly something that we'll keep our eye on as we work our way through those storms that kind of continue to push their way eastward. Basically just one severe thunderstorm warning right now at the moment, and this extends from Mountainburg all the way south through Greenwood and then Charleston, like we just mentioned. And that's the strongest line of storms that we're talking about, moving east approximately 40 miles an hour. We'll get a quick storm track on that here in a little bit. Again, if we're looking right now in northwest Arkansas, we're still seeing some heavy rainfall. In Madison County, we're seeing some of those heavier showers and storms. If we're in eastern Carroll County, we're starting to see some of those showers and storms kind of pushing through the region. These are non-severe. They're probably waking you up. It's probably a little loud out there as we work our way into Washington County. More of the same, some light to moderate rainfall. And really the strongest part of the storms is into Crawford County, about to be into Franklin County, and then if we're in Sebastian County. If we're in Fort Smith area, we're pretty much clear. We're still going to be seeing some heavy showers and storms, but this is the leading edge of the severe weather potential. And after it's moved through your region, we're pretty much done. We're pretty much safe, and we can go to bed. If you're watching us there from the Fort Smith Van Buren area, Again, we had a report of damage 2 miles north of Van Buren. We don't know if that was tornado damage. We don't know if it was straight line wind damage as those little embedded circulations kind of push through. That severe thunderstorm warning is going to continue into Franklin County. That's what that flashing polygon is indicating. And that's going to be warned once it updates here. Again, still for a tornado possible tag. And this is warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. Earlier it was 70-mile-an-hour wind gust. Now it is still 60-mile-an-hour wind gust that it is warned for as it pushes through east of Mountainburg, east of Alma, and then on Charleston. So we'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer and probably get a storm track on this as this is moving east at about 30 miles an hour. So we'll get a little storm track on this. Mountainburg, we're still getting hit pretty hard right now. You're in that severe thunderstorm warning. This storm moving east at about 30 miles an hour. It's pushing through Charleston pretty much right now as we speak. Lavaca, we're getting hit hard, at least in Fort Smith and Van Buren. It's a little bit lighter rainfall as that strong line of storms has really pushed through. And that's pretty much that main corridor. It's pretty much pushed through Sallisaw, Muldrow, Fort Smith, the big population centers. Unfortunately, elsewhere, we didn't really have any severe thunderstorms to talk about. It was basically just that corridor right along Interstate 40. So if we look at this storm track out, this is 30 miles an hour, moving east at 30 miles an hour. We're going to be at Charleston pretty much in the next 5 minutes, like I just mentioned. Branch at about 2:35 in the morning within the next 15, 20 minutes. Ozark, this thing is going to hold itself together to Ozark. The question is how strong will it be once it reaches Ozark, but that's going to be at 2:40 in the morning. Altus at about almost 2:50 in the morning. Coal Hill, 3 in the morning. And then Paris, we're going to be talking about 3:05. And then Subiaco at about 3:15 in the morning as this line of storms continues to hold itself together. So that's what we're watching as it pretty much rides along the Interstate 40 corridor, but also the Arkansas River Valley corridor. Not a good idea to be driving on Interstate 40, especially westbound into the Fort Smith area. So that's what we're kind of watching out there. And we'll kind of look at storm velocity and see what our winds are doing with this. And nothing jumps out. Nothing jumps out to me. That's good. Again, we got those winds going away from the radar. That's what the red is indicating. But here's our radar site. That's what we're sampling from. We got the reds going away from the radar, the greens kind of going toward the radar. Anytime you get bright green, bright red close together, you can potentially get a quick spin-up tornado. So that's what we're watching right now. We'll kind of continue to watch this here the next several minutes. We got one severe thunderstorm warning. That's this guy right here that I kind of just zoomed out on. And this is warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust and also a tornado possible tag. And Joshua and I kind of mentioned this earlier. Tornado possible tag basically just means that there could be a couple areas of embedded circulation here or there that quickly spin up in a minute and they quickly spin down the next minute. It's not enough to warn a tornado warning, but we should certainly still take them seriously. Make sure we're staying away from windows with this. And ideally, honestly, if we really want to be on the safe side, get to the basement. Get to the your safe space in your either in the closet, bathroom. Even though it's not a tornado warning, it's still warned for a tornado possible tag. That's what the severe thunderstorm warning is for. So that's what we're talking about right now. I kind of want to just show you guys what the severe thunderstorm watch is, because we have that severe thunderstorm watch that has pretty much got expanded and continued throughout the whole 5 News viewing region. It looks like Benton County got dropped. That green is a flash flood watch, so we still have the potential for some localized flooding out there that we talked about earlier today. Here's that severe thunderstorm watch. Continues pretty much for the northwestern quadrant of the state of Arkansas. Here's that one lone severe thunderstorm warning, and those showers and storms are going to pose that risk as it really heads its way eastward. So that's what we're talking about right now. The severe thunderstorm watch, at least for northwest Arkansas and for western counties in the River Valley, expires at 5 in the morning. Again, they'll probably get dropped a little bit earlier on, such as the one that got dropped in Benton County. We'll probably continue to drop those as those lines of showers and storms kind of continues to push its way eastward throughout the region. Again, we're looking at that one storm. We'll go back to radar, and that's what we're talking about right now. That cell just east of Fort Smith. Kind of curious, Josh. Do we have that Ozark camera?
Yes, that is now facing to the west if you wanted to take that.
Right, let me go ahead and take that here.
And then something else the Weather Service mentioned, there's obviously no tornado warning or anything like that, but the environment, the shear that is there, more than supportive for maybe more activity. So that's why we're still with you here on air. Let's go ahead and see if I can find. There we go. So if we want to pull up NOAA full real quick, this is RDOT at the Dyer exit. I've been watching this just because that's where that one little area of rotation has been kind of persistent. But as you can see, not a whole lot going on right now, but it's also pretty tough. It's a part of the state where not a whole lot of those traffic lights to really see, so it's kind of blurry when the vehicles head in that direction.
Right, again, not a great idea to be driving in this. I'm sure not a lot of folks are driving as it's, 2:20, 2:30 in the morning. Obviously, lots of lightning with this. It's really lighting up the RDOT camera right now as we're talking about. We're looking at the Ozark camera, and we'll kind of go back to that Ozark camera as I pull it up right now. We weren't really seeing a whole lot. Again, that storm is still about 20 minutes outside from Ozark. We can kind of go back to Max 1. And we're kind of seeing some of those showers and storms kind of pushing through the region. Here's another RDOT camera. And this was at east of exit 13. Was this east of Mulberry, or was this a little bit further east?
This is east of Alma, so this is kind of on the backside of that.
Okay. Again, yeah, it's an electrically charged storm, as you'd expect. Yeah, lots of heavy rain to talk about. It's kind of hard to kind of depict, what our storm clouds are doing as we're kind of continuing to kind of work our way throughout Interstate 40. And this, Joshua, is...
this is the Dyer exit 20 camera.
Okay, so we're looking at Dyer exit 20. I mean, again, some strong winds with this, that severe thunderstorm warning as it continues to push its way through that Interstate 40 corridor that is warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and also the potential for a possible tornado. We don't have a tornado warning right now, just the Weather Service saying, yeah, we'll monitor it, we'll watch the potential for a tornado.
Yeah, if we could go ahead and take Max 1 again, he'll be able to show that Ozark camera here real quick. And shout out to those in the booth working behind the scenes as well. So thank you, guys.
Absolutely, yes. A big thank you to Trevor and everyone else. We're looking at Ozark. We're focused and pointed eastward. You would expect to see lightning. It's kind of hard to see exactly what's going on, and we're still several miles away from the leading edge of that storm as it pushes its way eastward. So we'll kind of take you back to radar because there's not really a whole lot going on in this camera. We'll take you back to radar and kind of show what's going on. It looks like lightning's kind of illuminating what would probably be a shelf cloud in probably what it would look like, especially when you have that strong straight line winds. You can kind of get an ominous looking shelf cloud, basically that rain cooled air, essentially leading to that appearance in the cloud that we typically see whenever there's a line of storm. So we'll maybe wait a few more seconds, maybe see if the lightning can maybe illuminate a potential shelf cloud. Notice we're not saying a wall cloud, we're not saying funnel cloud, we're saying a shelf cloud. A shelf cloud are pretty much harmless. Obviously they got strong winds with them, but anytime we mention a wall cloud or a funnel cloud, that's when we're talking about tornadic rotation. We don't really have that as it works its way into Ozark. So we'll wait a few more seconds before we kind of switch back to radar, what people want to kind of see. Again, kind of see maybe as lightning illuminated, maybe the leading edge of those clouds off in the distance as we're kind of pointed eastward, as those storms kind of work their way into the Ozark area. So that's what we're watching right now. We'll jump back to radar.
And something else, too, to watch, too. Saw the Weather Service mention this. Also been watching that as well. Notice the northern edge of the storms is, a little bit ahead of this southern portion. The outflow is going to start to interact as we get into Franklin County. Now, this may not lead to anything, but it may be some interactions that could spur up maybe a brief tornado potential as well. So that's why we're still with you here this morning in case anything spurs up.
Again, and what Joshua was talking about is this little area pretty much right on top of Interstate 40, maybe just to the north of it as it's kind of crossing into the Franklin County and even to the Johnson County lines there. This is a little area that we're kind of circled. That's a severe thunderstorm warning for the cities of Alma, Charleston, Dean Springs, Lavaca. Especially for in Lavaca, most of the heavy rainfall is pretty much kind of just either right on top of you or pretty much just past you. Notice it's warned for, not really concerned about hail with this. We're concerned about the wind speeds of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and then sometimes you can have a tornado possible attack. That's exactly what we see with this warning as it continues to push its way eastward. Kind of curious, let's kind of look at the velocity and storm winds out with it in the event that something does, spur up again. And we're not really looking at anything too serious. We'd be looking at north of Mulberry for any signs of rotation. We don't really see it. It's very broad, and that's good we want to kind of keep that trend continuing. But anytime you get on the northern edge of some of that little Boeing line segments, it can kind of become a little bit more favorable of a tornadic rotation. So that's kind of what we're watching out there over the next several minutes. So we'll take you back to radar, and I believe this is moving at. Is this moving at? Is it 40, Joshua, or?
I believe
30.
30. This whole portion of the line of storms on the southern end in the River Valley, it keeps kind of going back and forth between 20 miles an hour all the way up to 45, and then it kind of slows down back and forth. So every update's anywhere between that 25 to 45 range. So a little bit hard to keep up with, and it actually looks like maybe you went ahead and dropped it off.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be good news. Again, we'll do one little quick track before we'll probably take you off whatever the programming is right now. And it looks like it went into pause and freeze on me, which is good. Why it happened now, not an hour ago. So we'll try that one more time. Moving east at 30. We'll get a look at that line. It's going to be moving through Ozark here relatively quickly. We'll extend that eastward. Branch, it's on top of you right now. Radcliffe here in the next 10 minutes. Ozark about 2:39, so about 10, 12 minutes from now. Altus about 2:45 in the morning. Paris 2:55. Coal Hill more the same. Paris Municipal Airport 3 a.m. on the dot. Subiaco about 3:05, and then Scranton and Clarksville respectively about 3:15 and 3:20 in the morning. So that's what we're watching with some of these storms that are working their way eastward. Trevor, you can hear me in the booth. You can probably take ourselves off of regular programming. We'll obviously, I think, still keep going on the streaming just for the next several minutes and see what these storms do. But again, we can. Okay, awesome. Yeah, people in the booth are doing great work, so thank you to them. And we'll continue to do the live stream on 5 News Plus, Facebook, YouTube, as we'll watch these showers and storms push through. But it looks like as of now, we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings, and that's good.
Yeah, and the special weather statements are only for about 55-mile-per-hour winds. So there's some good news with this. Now, if you're to the east of these storms, don't go to bed and think, okay, well, there's no warnings. I think I'm completely clear. There's still a favorable environment as these move east. And, of course, for those who are watching on TV, head over to 5 News Plus, and you can, tune in with the latest as we're tracking these on the live stream. And, of course, if there is any more tornado warnings, we'll be back here on 5 News.
Okay, again, if you can hear me in the booth, we can go ahead and do the countdown just off the programming and then do the countdown back to streaming if you guys are ready for that. And we'll continue with some of our coverage here the next several minutes. Just let me know. Okay, I believe.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. So, again, we're still streaming right now on Facebook, YouTube. In fact, what I want to do for the folks that are watching right now on Facebook, I like to read, what we're happening in the comments, just because we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings right now. Let's see what people are saying. Are we good in Vian? Yes, if you were in Vian, we're good to go. So that's certainly some good news. Are we good to go back to sleep in Alma? Again, right now, you're seeing some heavy rain, some thunderstorms. Let's just hold off the next few minutes in Alma. I think we're pretty much done, though, with the threat. So just keep that in mind for an Alma. Let's see. So looking at some questions again. If anyone has any questions, I mean, I don't want you to spam the chat or anything like that. but if we have any questions, I'm not gonna go through every single town and say, oh, we're clear, we're good, blah blah blah. We are seeing is Mulberry clear. If you are in Mulberry, let me check the radar real quick.
And real quick, just popping this up. If you're on Facebook, I know that you can comment, but a way to send your damage reports if you have photos, and only do it if it's safe to do so. Don't go out in the middle of the storm as it's happening and record it. Wait until it's passed. If you want to send us those reports, if you're talking about them on Facebook and you're wondering where to send them, go ahead and text them to us at 479-785-5000. You can send those reports to us. So it's you can go ahead and let us know if you're seeing anything in your neck of the woods or ask your questions. We'll take a look. But just wanted to pop that up real quick just so you know where to send those photos if you have any sort of damage reports.
Yes, great tip there. Again, we're back to radar right now. People are wondering, Bentonville, are we good? Yes, Bentonville, we're good to go. In fact, the severe thunderstorm watch actually got dropped for Benton County a good amount of time ago. So that's what we're watching out there. Let's zoom in and get some towns and kind of get people all clear. If you're watching from Fort Smith, here's Fort Smith, here's Van Buren. If we're watching in Fort Smith or Van Buren, we're good, we're in the clear. Here's a line of storms that we're still watching. Right now it's not severe, but still packing some wind gusts of 50, maybe as high as 55 miles an hour. That's with these strong wind gusts. If we're in Ozark, you're going to feel it. You're definitely going to hear it here in the next several minutes as it kind of continues to push its way eastward. Going through some of the other comments right now. Is Barling good for now? Barling is roughly in this vicinity. If we're in Barling, we're good to go. I believe we had a comment asking about Mulberry. Mulberry, we're still seeing some heavy pockets of rainfall right now, but any areas of some of the heavy rainfall, and even if any rotation, which is pretty much non-existent, and that's certainly good news. If we're in Mulberry, we're still getting hit with some heavy rainfall. It's probably loud with thunder and some lightning, but we're good to go as we'll see those showers and storms pushing their way eastward. Again, Van Buren, Fort Smith, we're good. We're good to go to bed. Sorry these woke you up. Sorry we had tornado warnings. Again, we can't control the weather, unfortunately. What about Greenland? Greenland, we're looking pretty good. Again, the severe weather threat missed northwest Arkansas, and that was good. We didn't really see a whole lot out of it. Greenland, we're good. Fayetteville, we're good. If we got people watching in Ozark, we'll go over to the radar real quick. Again, this isn't severe right now, but as you kind of see this little Boeing segment from about, this is pretty much exactly right through Franklin County right now, this little Boeing line segment. Anytime you have that with a line of storms, that's when you can kind of get some of those stronger winds pushing out of it. So Ozark, we're going to get in on some of those gusty winds if you're not already seeing them right now as we're approaching the 2:30 in the morning hour there in your Saturday morning. Let's see, is Ozark going to be okay? Again, I kind of just mentioned that it's not severe. We're going to have some gusty, breezy winds out there. If we're in Mountainburg, we're good. We're still getting hit with heavy rain. We talked about in the newscast the last couple of days. Once a severe weather threat goes through you, we're still going to be having some showers and storms. They're just not going to be expected to be severe. So if I've said, hey, we're good to go to bed, you're on the clear, there's a good opportunity or a good chance you're still going to hear some thunder and hear some thunder at some point the rest of the overnight hours and even into Saturday morning as well. It's just that severe threat with this line of storms. That's still what we're kind of keep our eye on as it pushes through the area. People asking, is there a tornado in Fayetteville? There's no tornado right now anywhere. I believe we had someone ask if there was a tornado in the Van Buren area. We did get a report of some damage about 2 miles north of Van Buren. In fact, as I'm looking at the National Weather Service chat, the emergency manager in Crawford County in Van Buren is reporting power outages off of Rena Road, if I'm pronouncing that right, Oliver Springs, and Pointer Trail. We also have some power outages east of Alma that are being reported. And we also have some reports of some trees down north of Rudy, and then a small amount of damage reported near the Field of Dreams, which I believe was in the Van Buren area. I believe it was it was either a report of a tornado, but we can't exactly confirm that because we had some strong straight line winds. That was in the Van Buren area. So it was reported, I believe, potentially as a tornado, but we can't exactly confirm that. Again, it doesn't look like anything was significant based on this report from the National Weather Service. Whether it was straight line wind damage, whether it was tornado damage, we don't exactly know. I think the Weather Service is going to probably take a look at that in the next couple of days, but that's what we've been talking about. And again, with that severe thunderstorm warning that pushed through, we don't have it right now, but that warning that pushed through within the last 30 minutes, it packs 60, potentially as high as 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and that's more than enough to topple power lines, maybe even some trees out there, and that's probably why we're seeing some power outages. In fact, I'm not sure, Joshua, I know you've been kind of looking at some power outages the last several minutes. I'm not sure if you have any updates in terms of Crawford County or Franklin County or whatnot, if you have anything to pass along.
Yeah, and I'm, looking at the power outages behind the scenes. The latest update is up to almost 800 at the moment. We're literally at 799 power outages in Crawford County. There's also 130 outages in Washington County. There's also about 427 in Carroll County. So for those who are asking about Northwest Arkansas, it's scary out there. It sounds scary. I'm sure, you're seeing all the warnings. We were live on TV and we're on 5 News Plus. Northwest Arkansas, there is no severe thunderstorm warnings. There's no tornado warnings. In fact, there was only a small portion of Washington County in the severe thunderstorm warning earlier. So no warnings through there. But when you have this much lightning, if you have a lot of heavy rainfall, there's a lot of factors that go into potential power outages. You know, a couple years ago, I lost power because there was so much water it actually sank the electric box into the water. So there's some things that can happen like that, lightning or a tree limb falls on a box. There's a lot of things. So just because there's power outages in northwest Arkansas doesn't mean a tornado went through or necessarily significant winds. It's loud, scary storm activity. Of course, if you know, you're new to the area, new to severe weather, these storms can sound scary, but they're just springtime thunderstorms. So we'll get you through that. Something else I wanted to do in terms of housekeeping is, if you see behind me, there's this box right here. So we're going to be talking about flooding, but I saw a couple people mention, is there a tornado warning in McAllister? Is that coming our way? Just to kind of ease your fears, this is not a tornado warning. I know it's a little bit confusing because the red box, that's tornadoes. This is a maroon box, a little bit darker. This is the flash flood warning. So we're already starting to see some flash flood warnings to the west. So just wanted to clarify, that's not a tornado warning. That's just how our system loads that in. But, you know, when you're looking at this, this is going to start to be the next issue that we deal with. Now that severe weather is starting to wind down in many areas, starting to transition over to a heavy rainfall risk, which we need that rainfall. We've been talking about, we've wanted this rainfall. The problem is we're getting a lot of it in a small amount of time. So there's going to be potential for some flooding issues here over the next several hours as rain is just going to continue to move through, especially in parts of the river valley where we know if you get just a very light amount of rain, it seems that it floods pretty quickly. So just keep that in mind. We're going to start to see that transitioning over to maybe a flash flooding risk here momentarily. So looks like NOAA's sampling those winds behind the scenes. Good news is I've been tracking that as well behind the scenes. And, you know, at the moment, and this is kind of what I was saying earlier, the line segment, it's not starting to see some of those, you know, notches in it where you get that northwest to southeast segment and it sticks out like a sore thumb. This is starting to catch up with one another and starting to become more of a line. There's still a little area north of Ozark. And when I say that, I don't mean immediate tornado concern. This is just where it's a little bit more of that look that you look for. But right now, rotation not super strong, not seeing anything alarming. So not going to tell you to immediately get to shelter or anything. There's no warnings of any kind, but just wanted to, you know, keep an eye on it, just do our due diligence and all of that. So again, if you have any sort of reports, you can go ahead and send them in to us there. That's 479-785-5000. Already seen a lot of it. And if you see us on our phones, also just wanted to let you know, if you see us on our phones, not texting, not playing solitaire on our phones, Angry Birds, anything like that. We're taking a look at your comments on Facebook and on Haymarket to see if there's anything that we need to pass along to you or the Weather Service. But the good news is right now, and you know, I always kind of like when we get into this part of severe weather coverage where we're getting a lot of comments about the storms and not a lot of comments about damage with the storm. So the good news is, besides that little area near, you know, Rena Road, Oliver Springs, and the Field of Dreams in Van Buren, where there's a little bit of wind damage reported, not seeing a whole lot of damage reports out of this. Now that may change as we start to see the sun a little bit later on in the morning. We get some of those reports in, but right now, at least, we're not seeing any sort of major damage reports flooding in at the moment. So always a good thing when you're getting more comments about what the storms could do and not comments on what the storm has done. So again, we're tracking these things very carefully, not out of the woods just yet, especially if you're in the eastern portions of the coverage area where these haven't really tapped into that environment, haven't really made it into those areas quite yet. But at the moment, let's hope it stays this way. It looks like this is more of a solid line, or it's turning into a solid line as both the north and the southern portion of this are starting to catch up to each other as it moves east. Right.
Again, great intel there that Joshua provided. He talked about the power outages. We talked about the wind damage in some of those areas. We kind of jump back to radar here. Just want to circle, if we have anyone watching, whether on YouTube or Facebook, we'll just circle the area that we're kind of just still at the watch, just for the potential for some maybe isolated severe storms. Kind of highlight this here. Little area between about Boonville to Ozark and eastward. This area, again, it's not severe right now. It's good, but we're still going to be packing some wind gusts as high as 50, maybe 55 miles an hour. But that's going to be moving its way eastward here. So if we're in Paris, we'll keep our eye on it. Of course, we'll be here. We're not going to be going anywhere the next, 20 minutes or anything like that. If we're in Clarksville, we might be getting a quick little downpour from this shower, but the main action is just off to your west, and that's going to be continuing to push its way eastward. Greenwood, we're getting hit with some heavy rainfall right now. Fort Smith, I know some people were asking, is there anything behind this? Well, we'll take a look at it and kind of zoom out and look big picture on radar. To answer your question, technically, yes, there's more rain and storms behind, but in terms of severe weather, we're probably not talking about any more severe weather, especially behind this little main line that I'm pointing out with my left hand. That's what we're watching out. Again, this is the main line of severe weather. Northwest Arkansas missed out on the severe weather. That's great. Again, we just had those strong storms that pretty much pushed through right in the Interstate 40 corridor, become a little bit favorable there, and it gave us, some tornado warnings. I don't think we had any confirmations of any tornadoes that touched down. I think the Weather Service is still trying to confirm some things, especially in the Van Buren vicinity, especially in the field of Dreams. Was it tree damage? Was it roof damage? Still trying to work those out, and we'll kind of provide those updates as we kind of work our way through. Actually, while we have some folks on the stream, I guess I'll answer the next couple of questions before we take a look at Futurecast real quick. People are asking if Ozark is good. I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that have gotten woken up in Ozark there. I mean, we're getting pounded right now from Ozark to Roseville, heads up in Coal Hill. It's going to be on you within the next 10 minutes. So if we're in Ozark, people are asking if we're good. Well, you're probably seeing some strong breezy winds, 40, 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. You're probably seeing some heavy rain, obviously, some loud thunder, some lightning with that. I mean, I can look at some winds with this. We're not really seeing anything too strong, anything too alarming, and that's good, but let's take a look at maybe what our winds are doing. Potentially as high as 45, 50 miles an hour with some of those storms. So, Ozark, people are asking if we're good. Still got to be, probably staying away from windows just to be on the safe side. There's no severe warnings with that. Someone asked if Rogers is good. If you're in Northwest Arkansas, we're good. We're chilling. It's good. We might still be in that severe thunderstorm watch, but that's going to slowly get expired. I just want to give, while people are still on, just a little quick update in terms of what we're expecting in terms of that storm timing here. And I have not looked at this. This is all new data to me as this new model has come in. So for the next 15, 20 minutes, I think it has a pretty good idea on the handle of the current state of the atmosphere. Pretty much those strongest line of storms pushing through Johnson County, eastern Logan County, even parts of Scott County, where that heaviest rainfall is going to be. Northwest Arkansas, we're still seeing some of those heavier pockets of rainfall. Will kind of continue to go throughout the rest of Saturday morning. Here's 5 in the morning. Saturday, still seeing those pockets of heavy rainfall. We definitely got to keep our eye in places like Podo, to say Greenwood, to Waldron, to say Paris, Boonville, just for some of these showers and storms that kind of train over the same area and potentially give us some localized flooding. Earlier, we talked about there was flash flood warnings by McAllister. Those weren't tornado warnings; those were flash flood warnings. Just goes to show you that we have those heavy rainfall rates to potentially lead to some of that flooding out there. Here's 7 in the morning, still talking about those heavier pockets of rainfall, not just in the River Valley, but also in Northwest Arkansas. Here's 9, 10 in the morning. That rain's starting to wrap up in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, still potentially holding on to places like Clarksville, Paris, Scranton, New Blaine by about the early to mid-afternoon hours. And then once we get to the late afternoon hours, the rain's done, and we'll see those cloudy conditions and maybe even end the day on Saturday with some sunshine. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now. And if we have anyone watching in our Oklahoma counties, we're pretty much good. I will say, let's jump back to radar. I did want to point out one little thing that I noticed. And again, I kind of just touched on it a little bit earlier. So this was kind of the line of storms that was kind of pushing the strongest winds right now. If we're in Ozark, we're getting pelted. Coal Hill, it's going to be on you in that next 10 minutes. If we're in Paris, it's going to be on you within the next 10 minutes as well. But notice, if you're in northern Scott County, southern Sebastian County, southern Logan County here, and we'll zoom in a little bit closer to kind of show you what I'm talking about, these areas of showers and storms are going to be kind of moving over the same exact region. So if we're in Podo to Heavener, to Greenwood, to Waldron, to Boonville, we got to keep our eye out for some areas of flooding because we got some very heavy rainfall rates. You're probably hearing that right outside right now. And as these storms kind of train, so think of these storm cells as train cars, and think of those train cars as moving over the same track. That's what we call when we say training thunderstorms that are kind of continue to push their way eastward. that can drop some really heavy rainfall rates and some really heavy rainfall amounts. So that's something we got to watch, especially for LaFleur County, Southern Sebastian County, Logan County, Scott County, as we're not just going to be talking about 1 to 2 hours of some heavy rainfall. I mean, look at all these showers and storms that still have to work their way in just south of McAllister. That trajectory takes it really right over the same areas that I just talked about. So as we're still trying to wind down that severe weather threat, now we're going to have to talk about that flash flooding threat, unfortunately. Hopefully we can avoid the worst of it. Obviously we need the rain. We just don't want a ton of it all at once. And even northwest Arkansas is still seeing some of those pockets of light to moderate rainfall. The last thing I'll do real quick before I turn to Joshua for any updates, I just want to look at lightning here and see how much lightning is in the area. Earlier we had a lot of lightning, and I'm sure this woke some folks up. Not as much lightning. I think earlier when I was doing some updates on the stream, we had as much as 400 to 500 strikes of lightning in a big area such as this. Looks like our lightning has come down. It's usually an indicator that storms are slowly starting to weaken. Right now we're looking at about 150 to 200. Oh, now we're up to over 200 strikes of lightning in this big area in red. So that's what we're watching. Definitely going to be a loud storm that's probably going to wake you up. If we're watching in, Clarksville, if we're watching in the Russellville area, it's going to be, moving through, probably going to wake you up. Again, we're still watching that line of strong and severe storms. I shouldn't say severe, I should just say kind of on the stronger side, as it's not severe right now. But we'll continue to watch it as it pushes through our region, and I'll turn to Joshua if he has any more updates or things to pass along.
Sounds good. Yeah, and just looking through the comments behind the scenes, seeing a lot of people asking about their area. All I can say, and I know there's some of you who are thinking, I haven't looked at your comments yet, or we haven't gotten to your town. The good news is, if we're not talking about your location, there's nothing going on, because as you can see, there's no warnings. But I can assure you, if you're east of this line of storms, there's no warnings, but I wouldn't go to bed quite yet. I'd have those ways to stay alert, just because this is a fairly favorable environment still. It doesn't guarantee that storms are even going to pulse up. But if you are basically in Logan, Scott, and Johnson County, just remain weather alert for the next little bit. I'm not going to be able to get into every single town, but if you live in those counties and you notice this area that the storms are headed into, just be mindful of those storms for the next 1 to 2 hours or so. West of that, if you are west of the line of storms, you're perfectly fine. It's just going to be loud with some lightning, also going to be some moderate to heavy rainfall. That's starting to transition from severe weather over to a flash flooding concern. So northwest Arkansas, that's the story for northwest Arkansas. No severe weather in northwest Arkansas, just some heavy rainfall, lightning. It's going to sound scary, it's going to sound loud, but I can assure you right now, nothing severe. And as the rain continues to fall in these areas, it's probably not going to be severe anytime soon as well. So we're mostly clear, except for maybe some portions of Madison County and Carroll County on the very far eastern edge where the line of storms is moving through. And then when that pushes through, we'll be clear. But right now, Clarksville, New Blaine, Paris, Ozark, these areas, for the time being, are clear because there's no warning. But remain weather alert as that leading edge is making its way to you. Still seeing that kind of northwest to southeast, kind of look to that area near Ozark, but it doesn't guarantee a tornado is going to occur yet. But still fairly sheared environment. That's why we have the severe thunderstorm watch for those areas to the east, because this line of storms hasn't moved through yet. So if you're east of this line of storms, I wouldn't go to bed just yet, because there's still some strong storms that could pulse up. And in the event that they do, you don't want to be in bed, and then you have to get up and, ready as those move in. But right now, there's no tornado warnings. So if you're wondering about tornadoes, no tornado warnings at the time, no severe thunderstorm warnings. All I can tell you is, if you're east of this line, you're not in the clear yet. You got to wait until this starts to move through. West of this line, Alma, Fort Smith, Mountainburg, Winslow, Pecola, Greenwood, Mansfield, some of those locations there, you're a little bit more clear because that line of storms has moved through. Now you're transitioning over to a localized flooding concern. So keeping an eye on this, and like Noah said, we'll be tracking these here on 5 News Plus. There's no warnings at the minute, but just because there's no warnings, I don't want you to be in Clarksville or any of these locations that you see east of the line of storms thinking it's completely clear. Just wait with us here for another, half hour to an hour or so, and we'll be watching this as well. Something to note, too, just behind the scenes, Noah, obviously not any sort of rotation or anything, but there looks to be maybe a little area of some stronger winds near Ozark. So for our viewers who are in that area. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe it's a little bit scary at the moment, maybe some gusty winds, but no rotation at the moment. But you can see kind of that little notch there north of Ozark. And when we say notch, it doesn't mean tornado. I just want to, tiptoe through this and make sure all the details are clear, just because there's a lot of people with weather-related anxieties. And just let you know, when we say that, doesn't mean that there's always a tornado associated with it. When we see that little notch there and you see it near 40, of course, brings up attention, not necessarily for tornadoes, but it's some stronger winds there. And NOAA's highlighting it in the area. So we'll be keeping an eye on it. But right now, just kind of sampling behind the scenes, the winds there are about 50 to 55 miles an hour. So again, it wouldn't surprise me if this is a loud, scary sounding storm. But the good news is there's no severe weather. We'll want to watch that, though, because that's starting to look a little bit interesting. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but notice there's a little bit of a notch there. May be something to watch as this makes its way further to the east, just because we still have that shear available, and this is an untapped environment it's making its way into. So if anything happens, we're right here. We're going to walk you through it. We're going to get you through it. But, for the time being, just stay weather alert, because there's no warnings. But if a warning were to be issued, of course, we'll be right here with you. So that's just kind of an update there. I'll keep an eye on that area near Ozark. Again, it's not that it's going to produce anything, but it's starting to look a little bit interesting. And Noah, let me know what you think about that as well. Again, not that it's necessarily tornadic, but we see these things, they can pulse up very quickly. Not necessarily tornadoes, but if you have any sort of interactions too, you can see those winds kind of jump in intensities as well. And I already seen kind of on the Weather Service chat some gusty winds being reported in that area. So just something to watch, but definitely something that's starting to pique my interest just a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Great update there from Joshua. Yeah, we'll keep our eye on it there just northeast of Ozark. Right now the rotation didn't look super strong. There was definitely something evident there, but not enough to maybe warrant a tornado warning. Before we talk about areas in Johnson County and eastern Logan County, I kind of want to talk about and see what the Ozark camera is doing. I know the line of storms has pretty much kind of passed through Ozark, but if you kind of look at it, there's probably maybe a lot of lightning if it illuminates the camera here. You can't really tell. Obviously it's dark out. You can't tell what direction we're facing regardless, but you would usually be able to tell, again, you kind of make out the river shoreline there. It's really hard to tell. They're still dealing with areas of heavy rain and some thunder and lightning there in parts of the Ozark camera. Lightning was a lot more prolific about 5 to 10 minutes ago. You kind of see that here behind me. Obviously reduced visibility with some of that heavy rainfall that we're kind of seeing in the Ozark area. If we look back to radar, I'm sure there's some people maybe wondering, if they're good to go to bed or anything like that. I know Joshua kind of touched on it. Northwest Arkansas, we're still seeing some heavier pockets of rainfall. There's probably still some lightning in here. And again, we kind of reiterated this earlier today. The severe weather threat's going to be ending, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. We're still probably going to be talking about some thunderstorms. It's just they're not going to be severe thunderstorms as that line of storms continue to push its way eastward. Someone was asking about southern Madison counties. It looks pretty red. It is red, and that's definitely some heavy rainfall, lots of thunder and lightning, but it's not severe. We'll still continue to monitor that as it works its way across the Ozarks there. Let's focus in, though, into parts of Johnson County and eastern Logan County. The worst of it has pushed through Ozark. So if you're watching from Ozark and you made it through, then we're in good shape here. I will say, if we're between about Coal Hill and Horsehead Lake, probably some strong gusty winds with this. Maybe 40, 50-mile-hour wind gusts are possible. Not enough to cause a severe thunderstorm warning or anything like that, but here's Interstate 40 right along Ozark and, pointing the wrong thing. Here's Interstate 40 from Ozark north of Coal Hill. Here's the Arkansas River, and then here's Arkansas 64 right here that I was pointing at earlier, and here's Coal Hill. So Coal Hill's getting hit on it right now. People are wondering, a lot of people I think are wondering or watching from Ozark right now. Yes, we still have the heavy rainfall right now. I think someone was wondering how strong our winds are. We got a report from the emergency manager in the Ozark area in Franklin County that wind gusts were about 25, 30 miles an hour, which is breezy, but I mean, we saw wind gusts of 30 miles an hour not even associated with storms earlier this afternoon. So 30-mile-an-hour winds, they're not really going to do much to anything out there. We'll still sample the winds on velocity and kind of just show people what we're looking at. And really not a whole lot popping off right now. There's that 30 that I just mentioned. maybe some stronger winds closer to Coal Hill at that line of storm. So overall, 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, maybe 45. That's what we're watching. At least it's weakened the last hour, and that's, some good news as we're still watching that line of storms. We'll go back to a storm relative velocity just north of Interstate 40. Joshua mentioned this earlier. He did a good job pointing out that we're still watching that little area. If it would be anything, and it's very weak at this point. If it would be anything, it'd be pretty much right along, I believe, is this I'm not sure exactly what road. Let me zoom in a little bit into what road that is. Again, it's really not that strong. I think this is 357. This is just north of Interstate 40. So here's Interstate 40. Here's a little area that potentially we're watching, but it's really not that impressive. I mean, you really want to see some brighter greens and really some brighter reds in terms of that rotation. So it's very broad at this point, as this is just southwest of Horsehead Lake. Here's Ozark. I know we got a lot of people watching in Ozark. This is east of you. So any little area rotation that's not impressive to begin with is off to your east. We're still seeing those heavy rain showers and thunderstorms. Someone's saying, sounds like a nadir in Coal Hill. Again, it's some strong winds, some thunder and lightning. That's what we talked about earlier today. We don't have any tornadoes confirmed. Let's hope that continues to be the case. And I'm not sure, Josh, are there any good RDOT cameras along 40 there? I know we have one in Coal Hill. We might be able to get that one up, or maybe if we have anyone's, it's not on Clarksville's doorstep. If we have anyone watching in Clarksville, this is going to be in Clarksville in the next, again, we'll put a storm track here in a little bit, but probably in the next 20 minutes, I'd say roughly, as these aren't moving super fast, but it's in Coal Hill right now. I'm sure we got some people in Coal Hill. Someone wants to sample the winds in Logan County. Let's do it. Again, it didn't look, anything too crazy, but we'll certainly sample the winds there in Logan County. I'm not exactly sure where at in Logan County, but we'll do it just to be on the safe side here. So right now you see those bright reds, and again, the little quick 10-second tutorial. Here's the radar site in Fort Smith. The reds mean winds going away from the radar, so those winds are going pretty much pushing eastward, which makes sense, obviously, as those storms are pushing their way eastward. So the strongest winds probably look to be between about Boonville, Paris, Coal Hill. And if we kind of sample some of those winds, we're going to be looking probably several hundred feet aloft in the atmosphere. So it's not exactly what's happening and translating at the surface, but we'll take a look at what's going on by about Paris. Again, 40, 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. You're probably, hearing it. Like obviously, when you have 40, 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts, that pelts your rain against your window. So it's obviously going to sound a little bit louder out there. So that's kind of just south of Paris. If anyone's watching in Boonville, about 35, 40 miles an hour. If we're kind of close to the river, about 40 miles an hour. So for anyone who asked what our winds are kind of doing, they're below severe limits. 35 to 45 miles an hour is what we're seeing with those wind gusts out there.
And just real quick, too, saw a couple of people comment and just wanted to let you know something. We were talking about that little very weak area of rotation that was near Ozark a little bit ago. Now, this isn't any sort of immediate risk for a tornado or anything like that. Weather Service mentioning that they're keeping an eye on it. But also, I saw some people in the comments mention that some of their apps said it alerted them that a dangerous storm was in the area. It also said that maybe seek shelter. Just to kind of clarify, just from a tech perspective, there are some mobile apps out there that the algorithm looks for areas of rotation, and when it picks them up, whether they're strong or they're weak, it doesn't have that human interpretation, so it's automatically going to let you know that a storm is rotating and to seek shelter. That's how some of those apps work. So this is why we're on with you. They're very helpful tools. Those apps are very helpful, but I've seen a little bit of confusion right now from the viewers who are saying they had an alert that there was a rotating storm in the area. We're keeping an eye on it. There's no warnings at the moment, so if you have any app like that downloaded and you got notified to seek shelter or a rotating storm was in the area, there's a little bit of rotation, yes, but at the moment, it's not something you need to be immediately acting on in terms of that. So I just saw a couple of different people asking about their app notified them for that. I just wanted to kind of let you know how that works because, apps aren't perfect. It's an algorithm. It's going to pick up on that stuff. That's why you need a combination of the tools like that, and you need the combination of the expertise that we bring here on air to kind of let you know, yeah, we're seeing it, but this is what it means. So just want to bring that to some of the viewers' attention as well.
Yes, again, good clarification there by Joshua. I know sometimes it can kind of get a little confusing when you're kind of battling, strong winds out there, heavy rain, lots of thunder and lightning. And again, when you kind of have a line of storms, we're talking about right now, that's exactly what you're kind of seeing, especially as it's working its way through Johnson County right now. If you look at Franklin County and go back to Max 1 here, we're seeing most of the strongest rain, the strongest winds have pretty much moved into the Franklin, Johnson County line, which is this line right here. Here's Ozark, here's Cass, St. Paul's up in this vicinity. Again, heavy rain, we've talked about that the last few hours. Paris, we're getting hit hard with some gusty winds around 40 miles an hour. And as this line continues to push its way eastward, we'll call it about 35, 40 miles an hour. We'll do a little quick storm track on it, as it's not severe at the moment, and hopefully it doesn't become severe as it's shown a gradually weakening trend, at least in the winds. Remember, we had winds of 60 to 70 mile-an-hour wind gust on this earlier into the night. So we'll do 35 here. It kind of seems like a good middle ground for some of these storms. And we'll push those if this wants to work. All right, let me redo this again. Now it's going to work. Okay, second time's a charm. And again, these are moving east. This will take us all the way through outside Johnson County, Mount Magazine State Park. I'm sure the winds are going to be whipping out there, especially in that higher elevation. That's going to be in about 10 minutes at Mount Magazine State Park. That'd be a nice area to watch a storm roll in. Shoal Creek at 3:20 in the morning, Lamar at 3:25, so in about 20, 22 minutes. Knoxville there in eastern Johnson County, about 3:30 in the morning. London, didn't even know we had a London, 3:42, I think that's outside our viewing region actually. And then Arkansas Nuclear 1 about 3:45 in the morning, so about 40 minutes from now as those storms kind of hold themselves together. I feel like I've said this 50 times already. It's not severe at this moment. It has not been severe for a while, but it's kind of what we're talking about. If you're still watching us, from wherever you're watching, you'll kind of just, circle back in what we're talking about right now. Here's the big picture. About 30 minutes ago, we had some folks asking, what is this by McAllister, Oklahoma? Some people thought that was a tornado warning. I know it kind of looks similar. It's a flash flood warning. Good news, it's not a tornado warning. It's just a flash flood warning. It just goes to show you some heavy rainfall rates that have really produced some efficient rainfall just north of McAllister. And let's watch LaFleur County, Scott County, Sebastian County, Logan County, as we're not going to be done with the showers and storms in the next couple hours. They're going to continue to push their way eastward here through about, 4, 5, 6 a.m. That could really drop some heavy rainfall rates. So that's what we're talking about right now. Northwest Arkansas, we're getting a nice, good soaking rainfall, some good sleeping weather for sure out there about as we're live here about 3 a.m. on your Saturday morning. That's what's happening in Northwest Arkansas. Here's that line that has pushed east of Carroll County and pretty much exiting east of Madison County there into parts of, say, Harrison, Arkansas, getting hit with some heavy rain. Right now we're just watching eastern Logan County and then eastern Johnson County with that line of showers and storms. So kind of just to look back at some damage reports that we got with the storms earlier back in the Van Buren, Fort Smith area. We didn't have any confirmation of any tornadoes or anything like that. We certainly had some strong straight line winds, and that brought some trees down, probably some power lines down as well, especially in the Fort Smith, Van Buren area. And I'm kind of looking at some images here in the National Weather Service chat. We got some trees down covering some roadways. This looked to be somewhere in Van Buren. We don't have the exact location right now, but there's pictures of some trees down in the Van Buren area from that line of storms that pushed through about an hour ago, and that brought some of those strong straight line winds. It was technically tornado warned. The Weather Service is going to kind of do a little survey to either say if it was actually a little brief spin-up tornado, a little brief weak tornado, or if it was just strong straight line winds. So, they'll certainly watch that as they work their way throughout the next day or so. And that's what we're watching right now in terms of Johnson County. We'll take a look at the cell that we were slightly monitoring in kind of just northeast of Ozark in terms of rotation or anything like that. As I'm looking right now, it looks pathetic, and that's exactly what you want to see. I love to use the word pathetic when we're talking about rotation. you really can't really pick it out. I mean, we got the OARC General Store here in northern Johnson County, across the higher terrain of the Ozarks. Here's Clarksville. You have some of those brighter greens, but it's really not that strong. For anyone watching, if they are in Clarksville or anything like that, we'll just sample the winds real quick, maybe see how strong those winds are. And keep in mind, though, we're looking a little bit above the atmosphere right now. And again, not a whole lot going on right now in terms of severe weather, and that's good.
Yeah, that little, that little area, that's no longer there, so.
Right. And that's good. That's exactly what we want to see out there. We'll look east of Paris with some of those strong winds. Again, potentially as high as 45 miles an hour, some of those wind gusts. Again, the radar is a little bit further to the west, so you're probably sampling this a few thousand feet in the atmosphere. Maybe some of it's translating to the surface. That's what we're kind of watching here as it kind of continues to push through Logan County and Johnson County. We'll get back to radar right now. Actually, something that I haven't touched on real quick before we get back to radar is our watches and warnings. So we don't have any warnings right now. We just have watches. We have a severe thunderstorm watch for pretty much almost the whole entire 5 News viewing region. This is probably going to be allowed to expire. It's supposed to expire at 5 in the morning. The Weather Service might just kind of allow that to expire here the next couple hours. Maybe it'll drop. Oh, there it goes. It actually just updated like magic. So all of Northwest Arkansas, we're in the clear for severe weather. Notice though, these green counties such as Benton, Washington, Crawford, Adair, Sequoyah County, that's at flash flood watch. So we still have that heavy potential for some rainfall. Might even get expanded a little bit eastward as we still start to see some of that heavy rainfall. There's that severe thunderstorm watch into LaFleur, Sebastian, Franklin, Johnson, Logan County. We're mainly watching Johnson and Logan County, and that severe thunderstorm watch kind of continues in north central Arkansas. So that's the watch that we're talking about, and that's going to kind of continue here as I look at the National Weather Service chat. That's going to kind of continue until 5 a.m. So that's kind of what we talked about here the last couple of minutes. If we have anyone watching in Northwest Arkansas, we're good. We're in the clear. It's nice sleeping weather for the rain, at least. Trying to go through any comments. And again, not really seeing a whole lot of comments. I think luckily not as many people are watching, probably because they've gone to bed because it's literally 3:10 in the morning on a Saturday. We're supposed to be sleeping in and probably asleep at this point. But obviously, you know, we can't control the weather or the time it moves through. Again, that's what we're talking about. Josh, do you have any more updates to pass along as we watch this the next, 10 to 15 minutes before it kind of moves out of our area?
No, no reports or anything like that. So, good news is there's not a whole lot to talk about. So that's always good. Only thing I've been thinking of, I've been looking through all the comments. The good news is the damage I've seen even on Haymarket, and thank you so much for tuning in and sending those reports if you have any. The good news is on Haymarket, I've only seen just some smaller tree damage. And, not to downplay the damage, of course, it's scary. It can cause some issues, but it's not like we're talking, a massive tree that's 4 feet wide that was snapped at its base or anything like that. We're talking, just kind of the typical tree damage you see for these types of events. Now, it's going to get a little bit tricky. Immediately, it's scary. You have the winds, there's damage. You immediately think tornado. This is what damage surveys are for, is they're able to kind of conduct those and see if it was a tornado or straight line winds. It's going to be hard to determine that at the moment, but right now, the good news is no warnings or anything like that. Some clarity, too. We had those app notifications a little bit earlier. Doesn't mean you should ignore those. Just want to clarify that again. Doesn't mean you should ignore some of those apps. But some of those apps are going to pick up stuff in the storms that's not warning based, and it's going to let you know this storm's rotating. Doesn't mean that something is going to occur. It just means it's picking up on that algorithm where that storm is starting to spin, and whether or not it's actually something you need to worry about, it's going to pick up on that, it's going to send it out, and there can be some scary notifications. So it doesn't mean you should always downplay them or anything like that, but it also means, tune into us. This is why we're interpreting the radar and letting you know, because there is no warnings for the area at the moment. It's a little bit of weak rotation earlier, but obviously that has led to nothing. So like we've been saying, this is starting to move more into the worst of it's starting to push out of our area here in just about a half hour or so. It's on the edge of our county coverage area. Now we're starting to get into that heavy rain, localized flooding potential. If we could just have this rain and not deal with flooding, that would be great, just because, we desperately need that rainfall with all the fire weather conditions. And, I have a barbecue smoker I just bought. With all the burn bans, haven't been able to use it. So I'm looking forward to, hopefully this rain can get rid of those burn bans, just because, me and many like me are probably excited to actually get out in the yard and, do something like barbecue or anything like that, especially with Easter weekend. So we'll have to wait and see just how much rain this does with that. But the good news is, in terms of rainfall, we're getting it. The bad news in terms of rainfall is we're getting it in high amounts in a short amount of time. So we're dealing with some of those flooding. So again, if you're just now tuning in with us, and I also keep seeing this comment over and over again, what's the tornado warning to the west? Noah, if you can move the radar just to the west a little bit, I want to highlight that again. I know it's confusing. This is just how our system works. I know it's a little bit confusing at times. I want to highlight, this is not a tornado warning. I know, very similar color. Unfortunately, that's just our system. But the maroon box is flash flooding. So I don't want you to think, you see these to the west and you think, oh, we have another round coming in. We do have another round of heavy rainfall. We don't have another round of severe weather. The good news is, as this is moving through, the worst of it, the watch is going with it. So moving over to a flash flood warning, and thank you for moving that over. But just wanted to clarify one more time, not a tornado warning. It's flash flood warning. So just unfortunate, that's how the system works. But it's indicative that heavy rainfall is starting to swing into the area. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me, and I saw you were looking at some of those rain totals a little bit ago. You can go ahead and walk through those if you want. Okay. Wouldn't surprise me, especially in the River Valley. Maybe we start to see some flash flood warnings, especially if this starts to kind of, lead to more rainfall over the next several hours with the backside of this system.
Right. I think it's still trying to load up here in terms of the rainfall amounts.
Just like the rest of us, it's not awake.
Right, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, like Joshua said, he touched on the flash flood warnings. Unfortunately, not exactly seeing the rainfall accumulation. Maybe I'll go to the 12-hour. Maybe I'll give the system a lighter workload. It doesn't look to work. So, hey, it's okay. Sometimes technology doesn't work. But let's just jump back to radar. And Joshua just kind of touched on this about a minute ago. I really would not be surprised if we see some flash flood warnings, maybe not in the next 10 minutes, but in the next couple hours, get issued for maybe parts of LaFleur County, maybe parts of Scott County, Logan County, Southern Sebastian County. I mean, we're talking about these showers and storms pretty much moving and training over the same areas. In fact, if we kind of do a loop, we'll do a loop of the last 2 hours here, and we'll just loop the radar a little bit. So you kind of see where that line of storms pushed through. That's what gave those really, really strong winds, and maybe a quick spin-up tornado. We don't know. We can't exactly confirm that at this point. That's that little area of circulation that moved through Fort Smith and Van Buren area, those tornado warnings. That line of storms pushed through its eastward. And now, notice how the orientation of this line isn't necessarily from north to south. It's almost positioned from northeast to, moving my body in an awkward position, but northeast to southwest. And places like Poteau and Waldron, especially in the higher terrain of the Ouachitas, you can really get some quick runoff and some quick streams to rise rapidly. So we certainly really have to watch that and any flash flood warnings. Obviously, Joshua's going to be covering that all morning long, especially on the 5 News this morning between 5 and 7 in the morning. So he'll be keeping track of that. But we really got to watch that with some of the heavy rainfall. Again, I'll kind of just circle the area with what we're going to be seeing here. With those showers and storms pretty much training over the same area. And we got a lot more rain to get through this region. This area I circled, that's really what we have to talk about for the training of just multiple showers and storms. Again, we've needed the rainfall, but we don't necessarily need 3-4 inches in a short window of time. Then obviously you get too much and you run into some problems out there. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's actually look at the Poteau camera. Because we got some heavy showers and storms moving in Poteau really right now. So we'll look at the Poteau camera and see what's going on. We probably can't really see much with the heavy rain and lightning going on. Again, yeah, we don't really know what direction we're looking at. It doesn't really matter because you're getting heavy rain no matter where you are, pretty much in LaFleur County. So looking at Poto, I'm surprised there's not really any lightning happening. Maybe once I say it, maybe it'll start to flash a little bit. But again, it's heavy rainfall regardless right now. There was some lightning earlier with that storm. There's probably a bunch of lightning elsewhere that they're still seeing with that storm. We'll kind of go to some web cameras across the board. We'll start in Northwest Arkansas. We haven't really touched on you guys a lot. That's good. We missed the severe weather. Here's a look at Rogers. I'm sure not a lot of folks traveling on Interstate 49. There's that horizon. Not a whole lot going on. Obviously, the lightning has kind of downtrended a little bit, and that's kind of just a sign of some weakening storms. Here's Springdale, pretty much more of the same. Here's the sky. We'll go to, I think we're going to go to Bentonville next. Yes, Bentonville looking west. Obviously, the wet roadways out there. Not dealing with any severe weather. No severe thunderstorm watch. Still going to be dealing with that rain the next several hours. Now we're taking a look at Fayetteville. This is looking westbound on Fulbright Expressway. Here's Interstate 49 here in the distance, and there's Fulbright Expressway looking westbound. Yeah, not really expecting a whole lot out of that other than heavy rain. Here's the Fort Smith. We looked at this Fort Smith camera earlier when the tornado warning storm moved through. It was kind of hard to detect anything. We didn't really see anything too menacing, but sometimes we usually rely on lightning to light up those cameras. And then here we are back in Poto. Again, not seeing a whole lot out there. Obviously, you can't really tell, what's going on. Maybe a little light in the distance. Again, I couldn't tell you what that is. It's very reduced visibility. And then we're back to the Ozark camera where that line of showers and storms kind of just pushed through. So that's what we're going to be watching. Let's get back to radar one last time. And honestly, within the next 10, 15 minutes, we might be actually done with that little line of storms that's kind of continuing to push through Johnson County. Again, that's the big picture, what's going on. The storms moved in maybe 1 to 2 hours later than expected, but they sure did pack a punch in some spots. Not everyone saw severe weather, and it wasn't expected to be widespread necessarily. The storms were widespread, though, and let's kind of zoom in on Clarksville right now. Clarksville's getting hit. If we have anyone watching from Clarksville, we're hearing it. We're hearing the thunder. We're seeing the lightning. If we're up and awake, maybe not the best idea to be on a front back porch, but if you're a weather enthusiast, like Joshua and I, sometimes we like to watch on the porch. Obviously, not a good idea if it's a severe warning to be on a porch. That's kind of dangerous. Right now, these aren't severe. Let's just look at winds and storm relative velocity. Not a whole lot going on. That's good. Here's Clarksville. Here's Morrison Bluff. Here's the river. And here's Interstate 40 as it kind of goes toward near Knoxville down south here. Here's the rotation. It's very broad. That's great. That's what we want to see. Not a whole lot to talk about. And again, that's what we're seeing out there. I don't really think I need to sample velocity winds or anything like that, just because, well, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. That wasn't the case 2 hours ago when we had 2 or 3 tornado warnings with these little quick embed circulations. So yeah, that's what we're watching right now. For anyone watching, we'll go look at Futurecast. I can't even say anything. It's almost 3:30 in the morning on Saturday. But here we go. About the next couple hours, about 5 in the morning. Notice same areas getting hammered with showers and storms from Poto, south of Fort Smith, Waldron, Paris, Boonville, Charleston. You got to watch the flash flooding potential. We'll still keep our eye on it in Northwest Arkansas, but those showers and storms continue to push their way through. For Saturday morning, here's about 6 to 7 in the morning. And we're still dealing with heavy pockets of rainfall. You see all these oranges and reds with that heavy rainfall moving through the region. This is not going to be severe, but as we work our way to daybreak Saturday, we'll have to keep our eye on any potential flooded roadways or anything like that, especially when you get the heavy rainfall rates for multiple hours on end. Here's about 8, 9 a.m. We're looking at Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley still hanging on to some of that rain. So if you got to be out early tomorrow morning, definitely bring the raincoat, bring the rain gear, the umbrella, the rain boots. You're going to need it wherever you go for Saturday morning. Starting to see that start to wrap itself up, though, by midday and into the early afternoon Saturday. Maybe lingering into places like Clarksville to Paris, maybe Subiaco, but you get the idea. It starts to wrap itself in the afternoon and start to pave way to a drier second half of Saturday. So that's what we're looking at right now. You have anything to pass along, Joshua?
No, I was going to say, no worries on the words. I'm stuttering here myself, so I'm going to need at least probably minimum 4 cups of coffee here in the next little bit. So, running on 2 hours of sleep, and I'm sure Noah is. I'm sure Noah's probably.
I've been on my feet too long, and My legs have been straight, so if it looks like I'm doing like high knee kicks, because I'm trying to get some circulation going.
I was gonna say, what is it? It feels like you've probably been up for about 17 hours now or something like that. So
It's been a little too long.
yeah. So I'm sure, like many of you at home, we're all feeling it here this morning. That's the wonderful, and I hope you heard the sarcasm in my voice, Mother Nature. That's the wonderful thing. For whatever reason, Mother Nature loves having nocturnal events here. So, yeah, I'm sure many of you are exhausted yourselves. So, just taking a look behind the scenes, as he mentioned earlier, there's not a whole lot going on. So if you're wondering why we're on right now, it's not because there's warnings. I just want to kind of ease any sort of anxiety if you're just tuning in. It's one of those things where we have storms moving through and we're just doing our due diligence. The other thing, too, is, we're up. So we know that you're up as well. We want to be up making sure that you have the latest information because, if we're up, why not give you the information, even if there is nothing, just to kind of get you through these storms because they're loud and they're scary, and we want to make sure that you're not, overly worried about it. So right now, no warnings, no issues. Give it a little bit. I'd say probably the next half hour or so, and then the leading edge of this is going to be pushed out of the area. But no, I tell you what, looking behind the scenes, the rain totals, and this is going to be at least my concern. It's not guaranteed we're going to get this much rain, but those warnings that are to the west in McAllister, the 3-hour rain totals showed almost 5 inches of rainfall. And that's what's leading to that flash flood warning that you see behind me. So there are some areas that are seeing quite a bit of rainfall. And unfortunately for some of those locations, unfortunate to see that much, it looks like they're dealing with training rainfall. And all that means is you kind of get multiple rounds of storms that just go over the same area over and over and over. And this is kind of what Noah showed you with that futurecast just a little bit ago. Just because we have rain right now, it's not going to be one of those systems with a squall line where we see, the main line moves through. You may have a little bit of stratiform rain behind it, and then it just clears out, and then it's done. We're going on 3:30 here in just a little bit. There's all this rain to the west, and there's going to be a lot more rainfall after that through at least maybe midday before it clears out. So we got a lot more rainfall on the way. So the good news is, like I've been saying all morning, we're getting rainfall. The bad news is we're getting a lot of it, and it's not in a long, span of time where the ground can absorb it. It's in a short amount of time, and the ground is so dry, it has nowhere to go except puddle on top. So there's going to be some localized flooding potential that we're going to be dealing with, and areas west of here dealing with anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of rainfall in a couple of hours. So that's a lot of rainfall on the way. So again, as we've been saying all morning, it wouldn't surprise us if maybe parts of the river valley where, you can kind of already see some of that training activity, not necessarily flash flood warning criteria yet, but give it another several hours as we head into the late morning into midday where you see just more rainfall on the way. And this is probably going to lead to some concerns for localized flooding, especially because, many of us, Sebastian and Crawford County, we know if you get a little bit of rainfall in some of those flood-prone locations, it can flood pretty quickly and lead to some localized flooding. So, if those areas are dealing with that with just a little bit of rainfall, now imagine the rainfall we've seen, and then you add kind of the combination of some flood-prone areas and the ground is not going to be able to absorb it very quickly. That's when we're going to be dealing with some flash flooding concerns. So definitely something we'll need to watch, but also just real quick, for severe thunderstorm, all of that, we're not dealing with any sort of warnings yet. So if you're just now tuning in and you're wondering why are you still on, we're just here with you. Of course, the worst of the weather is starting to push out of the area, but also at the same time, we just want to make sure, we're up. We know that you're up. We want to make sure that we're giving you that information, walking you through these, even though it, at the moment, fortunately, it's pretty boring. There's no severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings or anything like that. So the good news is for the time being, Northwest Arkansas, you can go to bed. Parts of the River Valley, you can go to bed. There's just a couple counties where the leading edge is not quite cleared. But also keep in mind, as you're getting your day started, if you have to be up here in a couple of hours and you have to get out, if you're on the roads, make sure that you're aware of that flooding potential over the next several hours, because I think we're going to be dealing with some localized flooding here off and on, maybe through at least midday.
Yes, again, that's what we're going to be talking about, these next few hours. Joshua mentioned when he's looking at those rainfall totals out kind of by McAllister, again, it's not a tornado warning, it's a flash flood warning. We were talking about rainfall amounts of 3 to 5 inches. And earlier in the newscast, I showed rainfall projections of 2 to 3 inches. If you followed me along the 24/7 weather impact stream earlier this afternoon, there was one model I showed that showed as high as 4 to 5 inches. I didn't want to scare that. I didn't show that on air necessarily, but that was a possibility of seeing those isolated pockets of 3-4+ inches, and I think that's probably going to be setting up in this area I just circled in LaFleur County, Scott County, especially as these showers and storms, they're not going to continue to push their way, well, they're continuing to push their way eastward, but if you look at these showers and storms in eastern Scott County, southeastern Logan County, look what has to come behind it. Again, it sounds like a broken record right now, but that's what we're talking about. And look at all these showers and storms firing up southeast of McAllister. It's like a fire hose just feeding in to this, especially if you're south of Fort Smith. And that's where we had to talk about that flooding potential. We don't have any severe warnings at the moment, but give it a couple hours, we could certainly see a flash flood warning in the area. And we definitely got to be careful there, especially if you be out early tomorrow morning. If you encounter water over a roadway or over a bridge, we always stress and we always preach, turn around, don't drown. Even if the water, looks like that high across the roadway and it's kind of just moving, you still technically don't know how deep that water is, or if the road's been washed out, or if you drive through it, then your car all of a sudden gets washed out. So that's kind of what we always watch and we always preach, especially when you get areas of those training thunderstorms just over the same exact areas. And basically what I have pulled up on radar right now is the 3-hour radar loop. So the storms took their sweet old time getting here, but once we kind of get to midnight, that's when things started moving to the region. Once we got to about 1 a.m., that's when things started to pop off with this little strong Boeing line setting it by about South Salt to Fort Smith, Van Buren. That's what gave us those those tornado warnings and even some wind damage that we've been seeing, especially in Van Buren and even by the Alma Rudy area. We've seen some reports of trees and some power lines down. We can't confirm if there was a tornado or anything. There was a tornado warning in the area, but you also had some very strong winds along the leading edge of that storm as it kind of continued to push its way eastward. So that's kind of that radar loop, that 3-hour radar loop that we talked about. And I kind of just want to zoom in a little bit in terms of our eastern counties in Johnson County and eastern Logan County. I'm trying to make my brain work. New Blaine, Morrison Bluff, the heaviest rain that just passed you. New Blaine, you're getting nailed with it right now. There's Arkansas Nuclear 1 just to my left. And then here's Clarksville. We're still getting pelted with some of that heavy rainfall. We'll take a look at velocity. We're not expecting to see anything too crazy right now. It might look a little menacing over Clarksville right now. You see these little bright greens. You really need to see some bright reds, so some wind going away from the radar. We just don't really see that. So we can have some strong winds, going toward the radar, but if we don't have anything going away from the radar, then you don't really have any strong rotation at the moment. So it might look alarming. You see some bright greens, bright reds, but we're not talking about any tornado warning cells or any severe thunderstorm warnings for that. And it looks like our winds have really weakened. Now, we are certainly looking much further away from the radar than as opposed to about an hour or two ago, but our winds are much lighter. Our storms are slowly weakening as they push their way eastward. We haven't really been seeing severe thunderstorm warnings the last hour. I think it's been probably roughly an hour since we've dropped them. And as Joshua reiterated, we're kind of just staying on for the next few minutes just to, kind of keep you guys in the loop and maybe calm any nerves or fears. I know there's some people, I know people personally that has storm anxiety. And even sometimes when I hear a loud thunder crash, I get a little nervous. My heart starts beating a little fast. But
Same here.
Right. And so that's what we're talking about. So honestly, we'll get back to radar real quick. And Joshua, chime in on your thoughts. But probably in the next 5 minutes, we can probably maybe wrap the stream up as this line of storms continue to push its way eastward. Because, we could talk for the next, 3 hours about the heavy rain, the flooding potential in Podo to maybe Waldron to Greenwood to Paris. We could talk about that for as long as we wanted, but in terms of the severe weather potential, it's probably pushed to our east, especially once it exits the Clarksville area. So I think we'll probably hang on. And again, Joshua, I'd like to get your thoughts, but we'll probably hang on for a few minutes before potentially ending it and letting people go to bed and letting me go to bed. I know your day's just starting, but I need to go to bed because I also have to work in less than 12 hours.
He's like, I have to come back here. It's like that. I keep seeing that meme video online of you leave the office and then you're like, oh wait, I'm right back here. So that's what these days will do to you. You have like severe weather and then you have these overlapping. It's a little bit chaotic with the scheduling. But the good news is we're here for you and we enjoy it. So
Yes.
It's, it gets tiring, of course, with the hours, staying up all night, as I'm sure all of you are. But, the other fun thing is when we have these streams, because even though there's no warnings, it also, keeps us, awake. And also we enjoy letting you know, even if there are no warnings, we're able to kind of calm some nerves. I grew up with storm-related anxiety, so I feel you. And if you're scared about severe weather, that's completely normal. And that's why we're here. We're here to get you through it. So the good news is, like Noah said, I think we can wrap up that stream here pretty soon, just because, we're all getting tired, and I'm sure that y'all don't really want to hear us, yap about any more details, just because I think the moral of the story is going forward, flash flooding potential is what we have transitioning over from that, and the severe weather risk is winding down. So if you're wondering, can I go to bed? Yes. If you want to go to bed, go ahead and go to bed. It's starting to clear out there, and, some of the locations that aren't completely in the clear yet are areas, I believe, is that Ozone, Arkansas? So like those areas that the line is just now moving through, there's no warning. So if you're worried for the next little bit, if you're in far eastern Johnson County, give it another 15 minutes. But right now, to the west of there, for all of northwest Arkansas and the majority of the River Valley, clear in terms of severe weather. That risk is over. The only thing that we're transitioning to now, heavy rainfall. There may be some little pockets of lightning here and there with it as well. But, otherwise, it's going to be loud with the rainfall. But the better news is the lightning's coming down, severe weather's clearing out. It's just going to be rain. So good news is, if you have to go to bed, or if you are going to bed, we have to go to bed. It's been a long night. As you're headed to bed, we have some beautiful, rainfall behind it. So the good news is it's at least going to be a peaceful night's rest, because, fortunately, that lightning is not necessarily as bad as it was earlier. So that's a good thing. So remember, moral of the stories, bullet points real quick. Localized flooding potential is going to be a problem through at least midday, because we have a lot more rain. And thank you for putting up that product there, Noah. This is kind of, we go back and forth between radar products, and just quick, overview. The one that we've been showing you over the last several hours, that's a NextRad site. That's just from that one radar, and that's in Fort Smith. This view gives us a little bit of a view. It kind of mixes everything with the radars area-wide, and you can see all that rain that's in central Oklahoma. That's going to be what's making its way over the next several hours. So the red box you see there, not tornado warning, that's flash flood warnings. Fortunately, that's just how the system works there. I know it looks a little confusing, but that's just flash flooding. Some of those areas received anywhere between 3 to 5+ inches in the flash flood warning. So again, not in the clear yet in terms of the flash flooding potential. I think some of us could see anywhere between at least 2 to 4 inches, maybe some localized instances of higher, but the severe weather risk is winding down. So all clear to go to bed, but also, if you do want to get up and watch the morning shows, we'll be here in the morning as well, or you can catch the replay. We'll bring all the latest forecast information there as well, so you can prepare for the rest of your Easter weekend. So that's a look at what we've got going on there. Noah, if you have any other things to add before we wrap this up, I think fortunately, it's clear for everyone to go to bed, especially you, just because, you have to get here in a couple of hours, actually. So catch up on some rest.
Yeah, I'll need some rest. Yeah, again, I think we can pretty much wrap it up. Again, it's pretty much the big view on what to talk about here. Lots of showers and storms, not just in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Southwest Missouri. Like Joshua and I mentioned, the severe weather threat's pretty much done for us. We'll just zoom in really quick for radar one last time to get a check on it, because there's probably still some people up saying, well, what's going on right now? If you're in Clarksville, you're getting hit with some heavy rain and storms, but they're not severe. They haven't been severe for a while, and that's going to kind of continue to push through New Blaine, Logan County. Let's watch LaFleur County, Scott County, Logan County for some flooding potential as these showers and storms pretty much go over the same area. It's like a fire hose just firing over the same areas. So that's what we're going on Doppler radar. And that severe weather potential going to be pretty much over with here. Again, that's a flash flood warning. We've said this like 15 times. It's a flash flood warning, not a tornado warning. So we don't have to talk about that. And again, that's what we're talking about. Good sleeping weather. If I ever get to go to sleep. And with that, I think we'll probably be able to end the stream here.
Yeah, I'm glad I have shows here in a little bit, because if I had to hear this rain and have nothing, I would be just lights out.
So we'll go ahead and end the stream, folks. Again, thanks for staying up with us. Sorry that you guys had to, but yeah, that's what you get with thunderstorms in April in Arkansas and Oklahoma. So I got to reload the page here, and of course I got to log back in.
Just when you're like the most tired, that's when the systems are just like,
Right.
let's make you do extra steps. It always feels like that. Kind of like every time we take one of the sky cams and it's a line like this, we'll be saying, look at the lightning, and then that's the moment Mother Nature's like, oh yeah, we'll hold off on the lightning.
Okay. Generally, this is my first time doing this, Josh, but all I have to do is hit stop stream, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Well, with that, hopefully everyone has a good night and a safe and happy weekend. Again, thanks for tuning in with us, and hopefully you guys have a great night. Again, Joshua's going to be doing the morning shows here in the next couple hours, so if you want to tune in, please do so. And with that, have a